Thank you for your patience. We do have interpretation services if anybody needs it. But for now, I'd like to call the meeting of the Tucson Unified School District to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Romero?
Here.
Dr. Ravi?
Here.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Here.
Ms. Shaw?
Here.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Here. Next, we'll move on to the land acknowledgement statement and the Pledge of Allegiance. And we have a student with us today, Humberto Curiel Acosta. Hi, Humberto. He's in the 6th grade at Gale Elementary School. He has been enrolled there since preschool. A passionate athlete, Humberto enjoys playing flag football and was a member of the school's team in both the 4th and 5th grade. He can often be found on the field during lunch recess playing the sport he loves. Outside of school, he takes jiu-jitsu and kickboxing lessons. Humberto is also an outstanding student. He earned a perfect score on his first math benchmark and demonstrates strong leadership skills as both a reading buddy and a school ambassador. We are incredibly proud to have him represent Gale Elementary School at this evening's board meeting. So thank you, Humberto.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready, you can read the land acknowledgement statement.
Okay. On behalf of the governing board of the Tucson Unified School District, I, Humberto Curiel Acosta, acknowledge that the schools, buildings, and facilities of the Tucson Unified School District reside on the ancestral homeland of the Tohono O'odham Nation and the federally recognized tribal land of the Pasquayaqui tribe.
Thank you. And if you will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll have Humberto lead us in the pledge as well.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for you. Let's give him another round of applause. Dr. Trujillo, we're on agenda adjustments.
President Ekstrom, members of the governing board, I would like to move item 9.2, our presentation on population trends in Pima County, to immediately follow board member activity reports, as well as item 8.1, the agreement with the city for dispatch integration. We have some guests here for both items. So respectively, item 9.2 and item 8.1, immediately following board member activity reports.
Is that okay with everyone? Okay, Dr. Trujillo, awards and recognition.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to present the awards and recognitions, the student and staff excellence that we have throughout the Tucson Unified School District. So welcome all of you that are watching us here online or here in person. Let's go ahead and get started with our superintendent awards and recognition. Just give me one moment to pull some information. Tonight, we begin on a sad note as we say goodbye to one of our team members. When we lose a family member here in TUSD, the loss is felt by all of us, especially in the school communities that our employees serve. And tonight, we begin by honoring the life and legacy of Mr. Albert Rivera. He was a dedicated member of our Tucson Unified family who recently passed away. He began his service with TUSD as a bus driver in 1989, demonstrating a commitment to the safety and well-being of the children he transported. His strong work ethic and dedication were truly exceptional. He had a calling. Keeping kids safe while getting them to school was always his priority, and he took a great pride in this work. Albert was a deeply cherished father, tata, uncle, cousin, brother, and friend. He was a man of compassion and generosity. He was a respected and trustworthy man, known for his infectious smile, his overwhelming laughter, and deep-rooted love for hunting, camping, and the Los Angeles Rams. His commitment to helping everybody he encountered was evident in all aspects of his life. The Rivera family asked that Albert be remembered not for how his life ended, but for the way he lived, with purpose, generosity, and joy, and for the profound and lasting impact that he had on everybody fortunate enough to know him. So let's take a moment to acknowledge, a moment of silence, the life and service of Mr. Albert Rivera. Thank you. And as we reflect on those we've loved and lost and the legacy they leave behind, it's also important to recognize, obviously, the promise and the potential of tomorrow's stars. And we have an opportunity to do that now with some outstanding student achievement highlights coming out of our career and technical education programming. These two students have each been awarded the O'Reilly Automotive Scholarship. We have a $2,000 award thanks to the support of the Pima J-TED Foundation coming from O'Reilly. These students applied from across Pima County, and tonight's honorees are the distinguished recipients of this $2,000 award. So from Sabino High School, we recognize Ethan Getz, who is thriving in the automotive program at the downtown Pima County College campus. We also, from Santa Rita High School, big congratulations goes to Angel Flores, who is excelling in the diesel engine repair program as well. Although Ethan and Angel aren't here tonight, we want them to know how proud we are of their achievements. They'll be officially recognized at the Pima J-TED Foundation Scholarship Celebration on April 22nd, where over $45,000 in scholarships will be awarded to deserving students. This kind of success doesn't happen in a vacuum. It takes hard work, committed educators, and strong CTE leadership, and we're grateful to everybody who helps make these opportunities possible for our students. Ethan and Angel, congratulations. You're setting the bar high and showing us all what's possible with passion and perseverance. Congratulations. A hand again for these two outstanding students. It is my great pleasure tonight to recognize Carrillo K-5 Magnet School for a truly outstanding achievement. Carrillo has been named a 2024 National ESEA Distinguished School, one of only two schools in the entire state of Arizona to receive this national recognition. The prestigious award, presented by the National Association of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act Program Administrators, publicly recognizes federally funded schools that have made significant educational advances and demonstrated exceptional academic achievement among their students. Schools selected for this honor must meet several rigorous criteria. They must serve a student population with a poverty rate of at least 35%, demonstrate high academic achievement or significant growth, and meet or exceed their state's accountability standards. Carrillo does all of this and more. This award reflects the exemplary leadership, unwavering dedication of our talented educators, the diligent effort of our students, and the steadfast support of our families. Their collective efforts have fostered an environment where students thrive academically and socially. At this time, I would like to invite Principal Kristen Biddle to join me in presenting the state certificate to the Carrillo teachers in recognition of their exceptional contributions for this achievement. Mrs. Biddle. Our next recognition, we want to now focus our attention on the Blendman community for their ongoing work with Solutions Tree. The Tucson Unified School District, we are dedicated to providing regular opportunities for our staff to collaborate, engage in meaningful staff collaboration and professional development. And Blendman Elementary has dedicated their collaborative efforts into becoming a highly functioning and effective professional learning community school. Alicia Henderson is here from Solution Tree, Arizona, to share some exciting news about the great work happening at Blendman. Alicia.
Thank you very much. Dr. Trujillo, Madam President, and board members, my name is Alicia Henderson, and I'm very proud to be here tonight to not only recognize Blendman as a model PLC, but the very first model PLC in Pima County and the very first model PLC in Southern Arizona. So this is a really, really big deal. So let's talk for just a minute about what does it mean to be able to qualify to apply to be a model PLC. Well, it means you have to have all of those collaborative systems in working order, and those are used on a regular basis to impact student achievement. To be able to apply to be a model PLC, you have to have 3 years of sustained student achievement, which you know is definitely happening at Blendman. And this isn't, friends, just about their letter grade that they receive from the state. This is the day in and day out work that they're doing to impact student achievement. So with that said, I did share with you that this is the very first model in Pima County. And yes, that's a challenge. Y'all, that's a challenge, everybody. But also to know that they are one of only 18 schools in the entire state to be recognized as a model. So we are very, very proud of their efforts. As I often say, being a PLC itself, let alone a model, is not easy. It doesn't happen quickly. It takes full collective effort, but it is the work that is oh so necessary to impact our students. So friends, this is what we have heard in their application and from their reviewers. These are some really strong statements. Profound transformation. I know in 2017 they started a lot of this work, and it's now 2025 when they're really starting to recognize all of those efforts coming to life. Fundamentally improving academic achievement, behavior, collaboration. It's a testament to their unwavering commitment, and I think that's not just to improvement, but that's to their children and to the community. A shared mission of high levels of learning for all. Thriving community of learners, sustainable culture, and more. So they've got so much to be proud of, and what I'd like to say is thank you to the governing board and to this community for continually supporting them in these efforts so that they can get the results. So there are 3 different levels that they could have been recognized as a promising practices site. That means that you have 1 year of student achievement. They far surpass that to become a full model with 3 years of sustained student achievement. And now the next challenge for them is to work towards ambassador status, which means they would at least sustain the work that they've been doing for the past 3 years for another 3 years and have similar success. So they are definitely on their path. So with that, friends, I'd like to say congratulations to Blendman Elementary, and I'd like to invite Kelly Mack and her team to the front to be recognized.
We will have the team, I hope you fly this high, shout it from all of the mountaintops around Tucson, model PLC. Stay into one, and I'll get out of the way, of course, thank you. Very nice, thank you very much.
And as we close out awards and recognitions, there's no better way to close it out. Just a gentle reminder, not only for the TUSD community, but the community at large, whether you're parents or you're community members or small business owners or just residents of the city, May 5th through May 9th, it's Teacher Appreciation Week. So wherever, yeah, absolutely. So wherever you are in our great city, whether you're at the grocery store, walking down your street, or at one of our beautiful parks, or anywhere you're at, if you see a teacher, please thank them and wish them all the best this Teacher Celebration Week, May 5th through 9th. Tonight, we've highlighted just a couple incredible examples of teachers making a difference, but every teacher in our district plays a vital role in shaping minds, inspiring hearts. It's very, very important to reminder. I tell groups all the time, there really is only one transformational institution in American life. It's the public school, meaning the lives that those that enter it change for the better when they leave it. And at the center of that transformational work is the classroom teacher. So absolutely. Let us thank them, May 5th through May 9th, President Ekstrom, governing board members. That concludes awards and recognitions.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. If I could just have a point of personal privilege really quickly. Jean, if you could just put up that slide for me. We also lost a beloved member of the Davis community. Today we honor Senor Daniel Mejia, a beloved teacher and coach who dedicated his life to the students at Davis Bilingual. Over decades of teaching and coaching, he touched the lives of many generations, inspiring young people to believe in themselves and to strive for greatness. Senor Mejia was known for his unwavering commitment to physical education, his beloved summer basketball camps, and above all, his deep belief in every student he encountered. His impact on our community is immeasurable, and his spirit will live on in all those he taught, coached, and mentored. Senor Mejia will deeply be missed, but his legacy will never be forgotten. He taught PE at Davis for many, many years, and he also did the summer basketball camps along with mariachi camps. My daughter was in the 3rd grade when she went to her first mariachi camp. He taught her how to put that basketball in between her legs and to do sick crossovers, as she says. He was just a great person. He was even reffing up until this year. He would ref basketball games for the Ross Scrooge Cougar Classic. So I know that the Davis Bilingual community is very heartbroken, but his legacy will live on and will never be forgotten. So thank you. If we could just have a brief moment of silence for Mr. Mejia. Thank you. Next is board member activity reports. Dr. Shaw, since you have to leave soon, I'll let you go first.
Thank you, President Ekstrom. So during the last month, I had a chance to visit 2 schools in the Southwest, Banks Elementary School. Thank you, Principal Rosenberg, for the tour. It's an A-rated school in the southwest part of Tucson. TUSD, amazing campus. Got a great time visiting and learning more about the community of Banks. Also went down the street to visit VC Elementary School. Thank you, Principal Irig and Assistant Principal Bermudez, for the tour and introduction to that community. VC is one of our largest elementary schools, if not the largest elementary school in TUSD, and learned a lot about the amazing things happening on that campus. Both schools are new 6th grade, K-6 campuses, so learned a lot about the integration of the 6th grade campus onto the school and got to read some of my favorite books with the kindergartner class and 1st grade classes over there. My next site visit will happen in a few minutes, so I apologize to the group. I'll be heading out for just a little bit of the meeting to get to Lineweaver for my twins' opera that they're performing in Lineweaver, so I'll miss a few minutes of the meeting after I finish up here with my board member activity report. Continuing on, last night I got to join Pueblo College Preparatory Academy for their gala. Amazing program at Pueblo High School that takes some of the best and brightest in our district and really helps them prepare for the college experience and get them ready with amazing scholarships and admissions to schools. I got to speak and talk to the students and the families and honor some of the amazing students making progress in academic achievement. Thank you, Dr. Teresa Toro, for the invitation and the opportunity to address the students and families. Over the last month, I met with Lindsay Aguilar and the Food Services Department to talk more about how we're going to improve our food services in the years ahead. Got to meet with Carla Escamilla and our communications and marketing team to talk about how we're going to be recruiting our best and brightest to continue and stay with and come to TUSD. Attended our audit committee as the board liaison to the audit committee. Got to attend the superintendent's concert a few weeks ago and see not just students, but our amazing arts and music teachers perform some great numbers that night. And then joined TEA, thank you, Jim, in the back there, of TEA for organizing the rally a few weeks ago to really support public education. And along with many of my board colleagues, got to participate in that and really help support, along with more than 1,000 individuals to support public education. And then finally, attended the National School Board Association Conference in Atlanta, Georgia, along with my colleague, Natalie Luna Rose, and our superintendent. I attended a number of sessions during that conference, including facilities, upgrades, and management, how to support ex-ed departments, programs that link students with advanced learning opportunities, managing cell phones in schools, among other really important presentations. I learned a lot about how I can bring some effective knowledge and background into my role as a governing board member, along with collaborating with other folks around the country that are addressing some of the same problems we're addressing in TUSD. So very fortunate to be able to attend that conference a few weeks ago. Thank you.
Who would like to go next? Mr. Romero?
Check. All right. So I'm going to go through this quick. Otherwise, if I did 14 stories for all the different schools, we'll be here for a while. So I met with Izzy over at TAP, Deanna and her team at McCorkle, Emily at Marshall, Kathy at Dunham, Shauna Tully, Clarissa at Morgan Maxwell, mi hermano Oscar at Soling Tom, and joined by Pantano Regional, Holly Hamill, Josephine at Wakefield, Jessica at Steele, Cesar at Choya, Sandra at Robbins, Rachel at Erickson, Carrie at Wheeler, and I found out Mr. Valentin was back at Wheeler because Wheeler's irrigation is now working. Keep up the great work, Mr. Valentin. And then Principal Sarah at Davidson, and while I was there, I met and spoke with Speedy, who in addition to landscaping for TUSD, he's the artist that painted the mural at Robert Snaler. Pleasure to meet you, Speedy. Looking forward to your future murals, and that's my quick report.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. Nobody likes to go before or after Mr. Romero. But I will do that today. Good evening, everyone. So I had the opportunity to visit Cragen Elementary and had an extensive tour with Principal Rodriguez, just seeing all the great things that they're doing over there. And then I met a couple girls in the lunchroom who were using some of the food that was not used, taking the oranges that kids didn't want, squeezing them, and making orange juice, which is really great to see all the innovation over there. And then later I saw one of those girls at Himmel Park, and she came up to me and just, shared more about her story, so that was fabulous. I also spoke with a staff member who is unfortunately in the process of being terminated. He had a lot of questions about why that was happening in the process. And so I'm still working with him, but I do want to remind staff that if you are facing termination, you can always appeal that. Let's see. I also met with a group of staff from the ex-ed department about issues that they're dealing with, specifically their request to institute a caseload cap, which will definitely help them with their workload and help us remain in compliance. I hope we can institute that at one of our next board meetings. I spoke with a member of the press who reached out to me about the student-initiated renaming of Miles and Sam Hughes. It was at our last meeting during the call to the audience. It's really interesting. They did a lot of research about that. And so I'm not sure if that story went out yet, but if you're interested in understanding our renaming process, you could look up our TUSD policy code FF. And then today I participated in the Big Cities Health Coalition panel, where I spoke about some of my work with the Solidarte program, and also learned about what the county and the city of Tucson is doing in regards to their opioid settlements, and what other big cities like Dallas, Milwaukee, Chicago are doing to address their public health crisis, working with school districts or other jurisdictions to make sure that money that they have is being used in the best way possible. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Luna Rose?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I know you could be doing other things on a Tuesday night, so I will probably not be as quick as Mr. Romero, but I think he wins the record this time. Okay. So I attended the Read Across America event, and I read to kindergartners at Fruit Tendlers. Thank you to Principal Tim Erickson and to Ms. Cassie Conrath, who is the one of the kindergarten teachers there. She invited me, and we are also former alumni class of 1992 Rincon Rangers. So I was excited to go and read to her kids. We read The Sour Grape, and they just delivered to me a whole bunch of thank you letters with grapes colored. So it's super cute. So thank you, Cassie, for that. I met with some school parents with some concerns at their school. I won't get into the details, but if there's any parents listening, board members are available if you have questions or concerns, so you're welcome to at any time meet with us. From there, I did attend the NSBA's National School Board Association Conference in Atlanta with Dr. Shaw and Dr. Trujillo. What I found interesting was that not just a lot of school districts that are meeting, having the same issues, but the sessions that were filled and that were packed and got closed to some because the room capacity were all the DEI sessions. School districts are concerned about their programs and their departments that would qualify under DEI. So that was definitely a hot topic, and that we are kind of in the middle of the road. I met a really nice young lady who we've been corresponding now and again. She's from Prince George's, Maryland, and her school board oversees 103,000 students. So I feel a little bit blessed that we don't have that many, but I'm sure that keeps them busy. Had a couple of tours. Tour of the Language Acquisition Department. Thank you to Patricia Sandoval-Taylor and her team for spending the afternoon with me. With Patricia, we went to Doolin and Roscrouch to see the work that they're doing in their CRPI departments and the amazing work of I think it was a first grade class in Roscrouch where the students walked into a session where these kids were speaking about national monuments, all in Spanish, and it was very seamless and it was just beautiful to watch. So thank you, Patricia, for that tour. Also a tour of Lineweaver. This was my first time as a tour at Lineweaver as 3 of the parents here. I didn't want to overwhelm Ms. Wells with one more board member, but she was gracious enough to give me a tour, and just a wonderful campus, and I can see why my colleagues have sent their children there. Tour of Van Buskirk Elementary. Thank you to Ms. Barajas for the tour. And one of the older schools in the district was a school that my mother attended, so it was nice to make that personal connection. Also attended the Mexican American Student Services Recognition. Thank you to Maria Federico Brummer and her team. It was a packed session. It was packed in that ballroom at the U of A, and kudos to their team for doing it in under 2 hours. Hats off. I know that's a lot of work. And did attend, I am on the Health Insurance Task Force meeting, so I attended my first 2 meetings. And lastly, Just to give a parent shout out, as a parent, to the Rincon University Color Guard. They just finished their winter season, and they had their performance up in, championship performance up in Phoenix at, there's a mountain up there. So thank you to the coach, Ms. Nicole Hamilton, and principals Alyssa Welch at Rincon and Beto Rangel at UHS for the continued support of that program.
Thank you. I will try to go quickly. I attended the TEA demonstration to support the Department of Education. I also attended the TUSD track and field event. Lineweaver won for overall school, and the boys and girls also came in first place, so kudos to them. Next, I attended a tour of the multicultural curriculum department. Thank you to Dr. Rosalinda Rodriguez, Dr. Junko Sequoy, Terry Kilcran, Heidi Aranda, and Socorro Diaz. I learned much more about what this department does and how unique and beautiful it is to have them in our TUSD district. I attended the Bond Oversight Committee meeting. We also were able to tour the special needs buses. Those are in, and those are new and on the street. So thank you to the Bond Oversight Committee and to Dr. Charlotte Carter for all of your work. Next, I had a tour of the Language Acquisition Department. Thank you to Pat Sandoval Taylor. We were able to attend 3 schools. We went to Van Buskert, Utterback, and CE Rose. And at Van Buskert, we got to see the kindergarten classroom, and they are reading, writing, and speaking in Spanish. It's wonderful to see. And then next, and lastly, I visited Robinson Elementary School. Thank you to Principal Lone. I got to see the 4th grade violin and their practice for their upcoming gig for their parents. So that was great to see. I also learned more about their school and their community, and also got to visit their beautiful library again. So thank you, Principal Lone, for that tour. And that concludes governing board member reports. For agenda adjustments, we are moving on to item 9.2, K through 12 population trends in Arizona and Pima County. Dr. Trujillo.
President Ekstrom, members of the governing board, I'd like to welcome Mr. Rick Brammer from the Center of Applied Economics. I met Mr. Brammer a few weeks ago at our Superintendent's Collaborative. He gave a very, very informative, very high-level overview of really some of the generational shifts in K-12 aged family demographics that are happening across the state of Arizona, and then here in southern Arizona as well, and how they impact not only our district, but traditional public school districts throughout the county. Mr. Brammer, welcome.
Thank you very much. President Ekstrom, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo, it is my pleasure to be here tonight. I'm not going to try to take too much time. I've got a lot of slides, but a lot of them I can go through real quickly. But there are some real important concepts, I think, here to think about and to understand. And I think when enrollment has been doing what it's doing, your first instinct is to kind of take it personally somehow. And I want to assure you that's really not what's going on. So Applied Economics has been doing this type of work around the state of Arizona for 30 years this year. We've had the privilege of serving 70 different school districts, including Tucson Unified. So we have been around the block, and we are in times that I have not seen before. And it's been going on for a little while, but I started doing this work, and it was all about growth. And now it's all about managing, the population sort of that we have to serve. And so we're going to start out some pretty high level stuff looking at state and national demographic and enrollment trends, okay? So this chart actually shows you the blue bars is the population of the United States, 10-year periods from 1990 all the way through 2050. So the actual data goes all the way right to the middle of the chart. And you can see that the growth rate in the United States has been, tapering off and is continuing to flatten even more. Now, the red line on the graph is keyed to the right-hand axis, and that shows you the percentage of the population that's under 18. And because it's fallen so much, that the actual number of persons under 18 in the United States has not increased since 2015. Not at all. In the entire nation, all put together. So this is not just an Arizona phenomenon. This is something that's actually going on one level or another, pretty much coast to coast. Here in Arizona, we all know that as a state, at least, we've had some tremendous population growth over the last 20 years, between 1990 and 2020. The population of the state about doubled from 3.7 to 7.3 million people. The next 30 years, it's projected, there's three different scenarios for the future growth that are done by the official state demographer. And the most preferred scenario, the blue line in the middle, would take us up to about 10 million people as a state over the next 30 years. So that would be adding about another 2.7 million people to the population of the state. But the thing to remember is, we go from 7.3 to 10, but where does it increase? And so these dots show you, the green was the 2020 population, and you add the blue gives you up to 2050. And without going through all of the numbers, the official projections show about a 1.7 million increase in Maricopa County, about a 530,000 increase in Pinal County, and about a 200,000 increase in Pima County over the next 30 years. And the big difference and the big change for me since I've been doing this, for this entire period of time, is the surge of growth in Pinal County. And a lot of that, and we're going to come back to this a little bit later, but it's all about housing affordability right now. Salaries and so forth have not kept up with our cost of living, and for the first time, we're suffering because of that as a state. And I think it will actually have, or could have, an impact on our growth going forward. Now, if you look at the population under 18 in the state of Arizona, you can see that it grew almost on pace with total population all the way through 2010. And then because of birth rates and the Great Recession that occurred in that period of time, the population under 18 in the state has not increased at all since 2010. And it will not increase until at least 2030. And so, stealing my own thunder, as we have a population, a school-age population that is fixed at best, and then we bring in a bunch more alternative providers, charters and vouchers and things like that, we're essentially just taking the same size pie and cutting it into more pieces, which means everybody gets less. And that's, one of the fundamental takeaways that I think you need to have is that, you're not alone in having a smaller piece of the pie. So in the time period that the population under 18 has been unchanged, total population in the state has grown by over 900,000 people. So this is a major departure from where we have been in the past. And if we look at where the future population under 18 is supposed to materialize, we have an increase of about 130,000 persons in Maricopa County, 104,000 in Pinal County, and 17,000 in Pima County over the next 30 years, according to those state projections. And a lot of what's driving this, as I alluded to earlier, are birth rates. I'm going to talk about two lines, one for Arizona, and then I'll talk about Pima County. But the red line for the state of Arizona, you can see that in 2006, we had a lot of things going on in 2006. Great Recession, SB 1070, anti-immigration legislation really roared to life in a big way. And so we saw birth rates literally crash by 20% in a period of 5 years. And then we had a sort of a leveling off period, and actually most demographers and economists thought birth rates would go back up a little bit again, because in history, that's what's happened. You have a big dip, and then everybody says, oh, okay, now I'll do it, and then it'll come back up. And the exact opposite happened. We continued down and down and down. And the evidence is suggesting that, well, we know that the average age at first birth of a woman increased by 5 years in the space of 10. So all of a sudden, we're not having kids in our 20s. A lot of us were having them in our early 30s. And that created a big gap in the number. We'll catch up a little bit again on that, but it moved everybody back on the curve. And the longer and the later you have your first child, the fewer children you will have total. That's just a statistical fact. So for the state of Arizona, in 2006, there were 102,000 births in the state total. Last year, there were 78,000 births in the state of Arizona. So we literally have at least a third less. In Pima County, in 2006, there were 14,000 births, and last year there were 9,700. So you're down basically 31% in the birth rate in Pima County. And one of the things, I guess, that's kind of disturbing about, these are rates, right? So you're dividing by population. So if you look at just the number of births, the simplest way to look at it, the number of births in the state actually bottomed in 2019 at about 77,000. Hasn't moved, hasn't gone up, but it hasn't gone down more yet either. And unfortunately, in Pima County, it's not a lot, but we're still seeing the number of births, not just the rate, but the number of births dropping off. And we've had what we'll see in a minute is a tremendous aging of the population that's taken place over the last 10 or 15 years in particular. The comparison, if you go back to that 2006 period, you compare Arizona birth rates, we were, basically at least 20% above the national average in terms of our birth rates. And as population, has changed, let's put it that way. New rules have gone into effect. You can see our birth rates have now put us below the national average. So the only other state I do work, in at least a little work in other states. And it's interesting to me that Utah and Arizona are the two states that have had the biggest drop in their birth rates during this period of time. And we're neighbors, and we're different in some ways and way different in other ways. And so I find it interesting that that's where the phenomena has actually been, the most acute, if you will. We're going to switch over now, talk about enrollment a little bit. This is publicly funded students in Arizona. Red part of the bar were students in district schools. The blue part of the bar is kids in charter schools. And so you can see, talking about that 2006, 2007, that was actually when publicly funded enrollment peaked in Arizona. And after that, because of the recession and some of the SB 1070 and those kinds of things, around 300,000 people left the state in just over 18 months. And an awful lot of them took kids with them. And so we saw enrollment drop. And still really hasn't gotten back to that level. It increased a little bit through about 2014, bounced back a little bit through 2014, but you can see is no change in totally publicly funded enrollment since then. And since the blue part of the bar has been getting smaller, or has been getting larger, the district part of the bar basically has been getting smaller. And so all the districts that we work with, except for the ones that are really building tons of affordable housing, every district I work for is losing enrollment at some level or another. The last thing I'll say about this is if you look at the blue part of the bar the last 2 years, and notice how there hasn't been any increase in the last couple of years in charter growth. Well, they're up against the same thing you are in terms of demographics. There's a lot more kids out there. And then they've been hit by ESAs just like you have. So they were already the choice takers. And so a lot of the people who took vouchers were actually in charter schools, not in district schools. So it's been across the board, and it's had that kind of an impact. And the other thing that's been happening is that we saw enrollment has been, basically unchanged, but the structure of enrollment by grade has changed tremendously. So if you go back to the beginning of this curve, back in 1999 and 2000, you can see that 9 through 12th as enrollment per grade was by far the smallest group. And we had, the two youngest groups had the highest number of students per grade. And now we've gone through this complete and full transition where, K2 enrollment has been declining since, depending on how you count it, at least 2015, 16, and then these curves unfortunately tend to follow each other. And so the dips that we saw come through 6th through 8th grade over the last 3 or 4 years are now finding their way up to the high school level. So those impacts of birth rates and all those other things are really just now causing enrollment at the high school level statewide to peak for the very first time ever. And in fact, will fall this year. There'll be a decrease in the number of high schoolers statewide. We talked a little bit about ESAs. This is the number of persons statewide who have an empowerment scholarship account. In 22-23 is when the program was made universal. And so in that year, there was an increase of about 19,000 students on vouchers statewide. However, only 21% of them were going to a public school before. They were basically already in private schools. They got their private school funded. So very small numbers came from public schools. And as we've seen it go on now, the percentage that are coming from public schools is getting bigger. However, the increase this year, the good news maybe, is that in 24-25, they only added 13,000 to the program after adding 36,000 to the program the year before. So we're seeing a little bit of the first signs of some saturation there. But no matter what kind of a product you introduce to what kind of a market, there's going to be a saturation point, the number of people who will actually benefit. With the ESAs, it was interesting this year. This shows the by grade breakdown for this year versus last year in terms of who's on an ESA. And the interesting part to me was the very little growth that they had in kindergarten and first grade. There was some pretty significant growth rates, first grade, second grades, internal. But again, the beginning of the end, I think, in terms of maybe the explosive growth in that program. So that might be, a little bit of something, I guess I would say, for us to look forward to, if we want to say it that way. We'll move on now to some of the stuff that we see going around in Pima County here, and we're going to start off with demographics and then look at some of the enrollment. I know there's a ton of numbers in here, and nobody wants to see them at this time of night, but I want you to at least see that in the decade of the 2000s, Pima County added 136,000 people. That's a 1.5% annual growth rate. It's not high, but it's good growth. It's good steady growth. Whereas 58,000 then in the following decade, you're dropping down to basically very, very low levels of growth. And even though that doesn't itself lead to decline in enrollment, the next part down where I've got the colored percentages is where the trouble's coming in. Is that I talked about the shifting of the age structure of the population. So you can see between 2010 and 2020, the population under 18 fell in every single age group. Not just didn't grow, it actually declined. So there are fewer kids, fewer school-age persons out there. And bigger, even more concerning thing maybe is the under 5 with a 5,000 person drop in the last 5 years. And so that doesn't bode well for what's going on, sort of in the next 5 years. But we did talk about birth rates, beginning to show some sign of stabilizing. And the biggest thing I can trace it to is the age and what we call tenure structure of the population, the householders. So you have owner householders and renter households. And then what's the age of the head of household? And it's interesting because you get more kiddos, generally speaking, out of renter households. However, the turnover rate is so much lower that they will go from, 3 kids and then all the kids move out and, there's a big turnover period where they actually lose students out of the same neighborhood. Whereas with renter-occupied housing units, they tend to turn over faster. And so the population actually doesn't go through that kind of a up and down. But I want to see growth in the 35 to 44 group. Those are the ones now that are really driving enrollment. And with owners and renters, there was actually a net decline in the number of householders in those groups. We look at enrollment trends, and I broke all the districts in Pima County into 2 groups. And this is basically the cumulative change in a percentage way for every district since 2010. And I took what I call the established area group, where there's not a tremendous amount of new housing being built. And so unfortunately, you can see that your cumulative loss of about 25%. This is a 13-year period. This only went through 23. Is the highest, but you can see the slope of the line in a lot of the other districts is very similar. So again, it's not you. It's really everybody. In some stabilization in flowing wells, but otherwise all of the areas down. And then in the ones that are, what I would call sort of emerging areas, we have Marana as the interesting one to me because they're building houses out there like crazy. 1,500 of them a year, and their enrollment's barely increasing. So there's competition, and then there's also the fact that when you build affordable housing, it appeals to two groups, young people and old people, because it's affordable, and in the case of older people, any kind of a commute is less of an issue. So we see them kind of competing in some places for the same kinds of housing. Whereas you can see Vail continues to have solid growth. Sahuarita did up until last year. We're actually currently engaged on a study for Sahuarita to figure out if their leveling off here is temporary or permanent. We're about halfway through that study right now. And then, the Tanque Verde area has shown some enrollment growth, but that was primarily because they added a high school and expanded their offerings outside their district. It didn't really have anything to do with, demographics or anything else. So we've seen the same sort of thing happen with the grade structure in the county that we've seen happen in the state, where if you go back a number of years, the high school group is smaller, not as much differential as at the state level, but still smallest. And now by, again, far away biggest, but starting that going over the hill kind of thing that we, see coming down the road. The last thing I'm going to talk about is what all this means to the people who work for you, who try to take what I do and who try to budget and try to do facilities and try to do transportation planning. Because what's really gone nuts for me, I've been doing this for 30 years, and it used to be if I knew how many kids lived in a neighborhood, I could tell you almost exactly how many were going to be at the school. And now what we've got is a system where we have open enrollment inside of districts that can total between 5 and 35% of your students. Paradise Valley, only 60% of the kids go to the school they're designated to go to. So we've got that movement. Then we've got movement between actual public school districts. So forget about charters and the privates. And that can be 5 to 50% of enrollment, which is just movement between, public school districts. And then, to top it all off, we've got right now 29% of all enrollment in the state in charters and private and homeschooling. I left homeschooling off that, but that's included in that number as well. So you can see the range of these things, the number of factors that take us from here's our school age population to here's how many students I have at school X. And I have a diagram for it. And it starts out at the top where here's the district school age population. And then out go the kids you're not serving. And then we have this concept called attendance areas that we lay on top of everything. And we decide how many kids should be in those, and then they move. That's what the circle is. That even once you do the attendance areas, that doesn't tell you the schools. You have to track that relationship. And then right at the end, you get out of district students come into the school. And so every single layer of these things introduces a little bit of doubt or a little bit of error into the practice of projecting enrollment by school. And it does make the people that work for you, it makes their job a lot harder. Not that we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying it has added a complicating factor to everything that we do. So, in summary, the state's population has and will probably continue to grow significantly. I'm worried about our loss of competitiveness in our housing prices. I'm worried that it's going to have economic development impacts going down the road. We saw the state population under 18 has not changed in the last 15 years and isn't going to grow quickly, after that. It will grow some, but not that quickly. Totally publicly funded K-12 enrollment still isn't back to levels before the Great Recession, and hasn't increased at all in the last 10 years. And nearly over the last 14 years, there's been 118,000 increase in charter school enrollment and a 91,000 loss of district enrollment. So very little net change, but like I said, taking that same size pie and cutting it into more pieces. We see the grade level shifting right along with the birth rates and right along with the population characteristics. And that's something that we're all just going to have to deal with. Like I said, at least at the state level, I'm kind of looking for the bottom. And when you see the number of births actually stop going down, I'm thinking, well, if we get a little bit of growth, people move in on top of that base, maybe we'll start to see it back up. But at the state level, I think we're pretty much there, but I'm concerned you might not quite be there yet. And then the share of the school-age population served by non-district providers is continuing to grow. It had kind of almost capped the charters. There was an appeal there, then the ESAs came in, and then of course COVID. And the interesting thing, we're still doing research right now trying to figure out where the kids went, because there's still 3 or 4% of the school-age population that essentially missing from the system. And so there's a lot more going on in terms of homeschooling. Think about all the money that was put into these online programs and people forming with the vouchers now what we call pods. So 3 or 4 of us get together and we form our own little school and we educate each other's kids. So now there's all kinds of more options out there, unfortunately. So I hope I didn't take too much time. I wanted to give you an idea of the environment you're in, and I'm happy to take any questions, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Brammer. Does any governing board member have any questions?
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation. I appreciate the data, but I still don't think that we're off the hook in regards to, the factors that have led to our enrollment other than the drop in birth rates. If you can talk a little bit about why you're estimating that Arizona's population under 18 will increase in 2035. I don't know if we could go back to that slide, but
we probably can. It'll take a minute. And those aren't, just to make it clear,
okay,
those are projections by the state demographer.
Okay, yeah, because considering like the trend of birth rates, I was surprised to see that in 2035 through 2050 that like there would be an uptick.
Right, and I was saying that it looks like the number of births statewide has bottomed out, and when you couple that with the fact that right now we're experiencing 2 to 3% growth in the population statewide, I think that's where that comes from. It has to build on itself over a number of years. You're looking at a 30-year period there, so we're taking a long time to gain back relatively little.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Brammer.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Next, we'll move on to item 8.1. That is the approval of the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Tucson and the Tucson Unified School District to integrate TUSD dispatchers into the Public Safety Communications Department. Dr. Trujillo?
President Extra, members of the governing board, tonight's a big win for student and staff safety across the district. Our dispatchers, our hardworking dispatchers in school safety, have been invited to join the City of Tucson's public safety response team at the Public Safety Communications Department. And so here to walk us through the item is our Director for School Safety, Joe Helms. And then we have a guest from the City of Tucson, William Fitzgerald. He is the city's Public Safety Communications Department Administrator. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo. Well, good evening, President Ekstrom, governing board members, Dr. Trujillo, and Council Ross. Yeah, we come to here in front of you with a great opportunity and very excited about the potential of our dispatchers within school safety being able to move in and be housed directly with the Public Safety Dispatch Department of the City of Tucson. I'm going to turn this over to them in the spirit of direct line communication, because that's really what this comes down to, right? In addition to the 40,000 students and the 6,500 staff members that we serve on a day-to-day basis within school safety, we're overall responsible for the 24/7 coverage of this entire district, which spans around, as you all know, around 230 square miles and more than 100 sites that we cover. And during all of that, whether it be students and staff in the classroom or that 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday night, our direct line of communication with our public safety entities out there to help support them and they support us is absolutely critical. The worst thing that can happen is a breakdown of communication during a critical incident. And this is really going to elevate that opportunity to ensure that that kind of thing doesn't happen, to ensure that we're not putting schools on lockdown that don't need to be, or that we're not initiating some kind of protocol that should have been initiated because we weren't aware of the situation. So again, in the spirit of that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Mr. Fitzgerald and also Mr. Mark King. He's from our team. He oversees our communication and analytics within school safety. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity to meet him. So Mark, do you want to take it away?
Good evening, Governing Board, President Luna Rose, Dr. Trujillo, Councilor Ross, everyone in attendance. I'm Mark King. I'm from School Safety. I am the dispatch supervisor and safety analysis for the district, and we have come to you for an opportunity for us to relocate and integrate with the City of Tucson Public Safety Communications Department. So with this integration, it's going to create a real unified communication system with first responders, including fire department, EMS, local law enforcement, and other agencies over at the PSCD. It's going to enhance emergency response capabilities. It's going to close that critical gap that we have between our first responders when an incident occurs, and we got to communicate real time between us and first responders. Within the IGA that we have presented to you, there's a couple of key provisions I'd like to point out. First is the IGA will comply with FERPA and HIPAA regulations. Both parties agree that shared data will be used exclusively for exigent circumstances, purposes, and will not be disclosed without authorization as permitted under FERPA, ensuring the protection of student and staff. This IGA was closely reviewed by both the City of Tucson attorneys as well as Councilor Ross to ensure that the FERPA and HIPAA was taken into consideration. It also includes 2 state-of-the-art dispatch workstations that's fully equipped. That's going to be provided by PSCD, which we'll go over here in a few minutes. Also to include a remote dispatch supervisor office, as well as direct access to the CSARC, the Community Safety Awareness and Response Center. That's a center that they manage critical incidents. They also provide analytics for video feed, body cameras, anything that can provide information quick and fast and accurate to help with getting that to the first responders to service the community better and efficiently. I laid out a couple of benefits of the integration. Seamless coordination between us and the first responders, being housed with them. It's going to give us direct communication with them so we can provide direct communication to the staff and community of the schools and the students. Real-time information, real-time threats, movements, and so forth like that to provide accurate information for them so they can make the appropriate determination whether they need to stay in lockdown, stay secure, they can release, and so forth. Next level security and safety, real-time alerts with the Centegix platform that we are integrating with all of our schools through the not the bond program, but through PSCD and other local PSAPs, public safety answering points, So being housed in the same facility with them would just swiftly, rapid communicate that Centegix alert to them. Again, with that CSARC, with the analytics that it can provide, cutting edge technology within that CSARC to have Axon fuses. We currently use Axon body cameras and Axon tasers, so we can actually integrate our Axon body cameras with their Axon fuses. And if an officer responds to an incident and that site doesn't have cameras, which about 33% of our sites have cameras, and that's it. So if an officer responds and we need video footage of that incident live stream, we can tap into the body cameras from that station, from their Axon fuses. On-site tech support over there, 24/7. The Public Safety Communications Department houses 13 entities. They're all listed right there. There are 9 different fire departments, University of Arizona EMS, as well as Tucson Police Department. They also have the capability of doing CAD to CAD meaning computer automated dispatch. That's what we utilize to record events, dispatch patrols, and do timestamps and record everything. They have the capability of their CAD system sending information directly to other agencies, i.e. Pima County and so forth. Maintenance, maximize cost efficiency. Within IGA, there's no cost to utilize their facility. And there is a free initial and ongoing training with our dispatchers. With that being said, that is a key benefit for us, because I'm a strong believer of training for proficiency. There's no way to be proficient in a job, especially as a critical position of a dispatcher, unless you're trained to that proficiency. And having that free initial and ongoing training within an IGA helps with that. Building public trust is my big factor right here. We will ensure the community that we're building that trust with our local community partners for first responders to ensure their safety of our staff and their students are a priority. We experience gaps in our communication very frequently, more than what we would like to. I did a real scenario for you. The incident was a armed individual was in the vicinity of a school, and instantly they thought to be detained, and that's what information we was provided by third-party information, and we was trying to coordinate and communicate with local responders to verify that. Through this whole incident, that individual was actually being monitored by local authorities. The gap, the school received inaccurate information, and there was no direct communication with first responders. And then students was newly released while the suspect remained active in that area. With this integration, it would have prevented any type of miscommunication and updates on weapon status and the suspect movement, instant alerts for escalating or changing of threats, so we can provide that to the staff on site. And then obviously with that accurate intel, we can determine what protocols to use, whether it's a lockdown, secure, or if we can release the students, if it's safe to do that. I've gathered some data to show you from 2023 to 2024 on the right side. The total service requests, we've had about 8,900 for that school year. For that 8,900, about 1,000 calls was coordinated with the Public Safety Communications Department, whether that's EMS, fire, or local authorities. So that's about 11% of our calls that we receive. in our dispatch center, we have to coordinate with local authorities or local responders. That's 1 in every 9 service calls if we break it down like that. And on the left, for this school year up until March 18th, we've had a total of about 6,000. Of those 6,000, we've experienced about 724 calls with the Public Safety Communications Department, which is about 12% of our calls.
Yeah, so there's definitely going to be some cost associated with this, but fortunately, the Public Safety Dispatch Center does have been able to recognize a grant that we're able to use. The initial cost would be significant to the school district, but again, working with Mr. Fitzgerald and his team, they've been able to identify that this grant they've identified, which will pay for that first year. So there will be zero cost. That zero cost will provide us all that initial training, including moving costs and getting all those initial CAD access that we need. Additionally, in subsequent years, there will be an additional cost associated with that, of course, but most of that cost will be realized within the current school safety budget, i.e. we're already having to pay for some of these systems already with in-house. This will be taken over by them. So as we can kind of see here, year one, this is what we currently pay, about $15,000 a year for our current CAD system, which would equates to about $75,000 over the 5 years. Again, moving back over there, we will pay additional costs. The overall cost over the 5 years is around $80,000, which is about obviously $6,000 more. However, we're realizing over $100,000 in savings with getting that additional training and so on and so forth. One of the things that's really critical in this is the City of Tucson and many of the other public safety entities are also currently going to a encrypted radio system. The cost of those radios is significant, that in order for us to be able to communicate directly with them, the officers on the street, we would have to upgrade to those, which would be a significant cost to the school district that we're just not in a position, at least within school safety, to do. So this is what we currently have. Many of you have already had opportunity to come visit us. This is what we currently look like on the left. Albert's a great guy. They do work really hard. However, on the right, you can see just much more advanced technology, many more opportunities to kind of realize what's going on, more information that they can gather, and more information that they can share not only internally, but obviously, again, with those public safety entities that we work with on a day-to-day basis. So again, zero cost to initially move over. We'll have direct access. It's literally talking to the people within that dispatch center to ensure that we're getting real-time, true information that we can convey to our people that are having to respond to those. State-of-the-art call centers, and just that continual collaboration. Again, elevating those services that we provide to the students and staff of the Tucson Unified School District, and ensuring that we're maintaining the safest possible environments out there. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Governing board members, any questions? Yes, Ms. Luna Rose.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hallis. Good to see you. One comment and then one question. Comment that I'm happy to see this integration, just because I think that's been a common complaint among the board, but as well as parents. So I think this will intertwine nicely. So I'm glad you're coming to us to take this step.
Great.
But my question is, and maybe this is more for Mr. Ross, I just want to make sure that no student records or information would be violated. I know that FERPA is mentioned in this IGA, but I just want to make sure that this has been vetted well enough that I'd feel comfortable approving this evening.
Yes, board members, thank you, Ms. Luna Rose. If you look at section 5.
I don't think your mic's on.
Yeah, it is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, maybe I'm not on. Section 5 of this agreement was what I focused quite a bit on in order to make sure that if we're going to be sharing information, that it's under a FERPA exception, and Mr. King referenced exigent circumstances. So if there's an emergency, then we're calling law enforcement anyway. Now we're eliminating that gap of us calling law enforcement. It's all going to be there. The same information would be passed along in an emergency. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that we connected on is in section 5, and that's I was concerned about public records releases. because I know we see public records information coming out of dispatch centers, and I wanted to make sure that our legal department was going to be consulted before anything goes out from the consolidated department. So Section 5, I did quite a bit of thinking on that and working with the other parties so that I was comfortable with making sure that confidentiality is going to remain where it should unless there's an emergency situation.
Great, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. I'm concerned with ICE and everything going on with that, how they would be able, or TPD would be able to give out student information and that sort of thing. Because right now I'm not comfortable with this.
So again, if we're talking about situations where the district is communicating with law enforcement anyway, so it's going to be the same type of communication except much shorter. I don't think ICE is involved in this center at all. So,
but will TPD or Sheriff's Department or any department have access to our student records?
No more access than they would have today, i.e. during a critical situation. I mean, worst case scenarios that we can think of, right? You're going to be sharing all that information anyway to manage the situation. Within this IGA, Mr. Ross and the city attorneys were very careful in ensuring, because on their side of things, they have information that we don't have access to either, right? They're sworn law enforcement, fire department, so they have certain records that they can't share with us. So there's a little physical separation within their building. Luckily, they have a very large building, and we're on one far side of it, close enough where we can have that communication, especially through a supervisor, but ensuring that data is not going to be shared on an ongoing basis. So there is processes in place, checks and balances to ensure that information is not shared unless it elevates to that critical situation, at which time it's our decision to make that, right? Whether it be whatever kind of information we're sharing, this is going to be solely on the school district and in consultation with our superintendent and our legal counsel and ensure that information can be shared.
So they won't have synergy access?
No.
And just like we won't have access to whatever those fancy systems are that law enforcement has unless they want to provide that to us.
So unless there's a warrant, then they would contact your office and then go from there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, same process. And one real critical thing I think that really needs to be highlighted is the Tucson Police Department's only one aspect of this. We mentioned there's 13 agencies, but in addition to those public safety entities, most of them are fire departments, is a suicide hotline as well. So this, just our availability to provide those services on an extremely timely situations, it's just a fantastic opportunity we have in front of us, I believe.
And I completely understand that, but you have to look at it from my point of view and the concerns that I get from the community about the sharing of information of our students and our parents and how concerned they are that other entities could have access to their data.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And I'll just repeat that, those we ensure that we outline that within our intergovernmental agreement, and then those checks and balances to make sure that information is not shared on an ongoing basis unless it's a critical situation.
Governing board members, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you for the presentation. I share your concern, Ms. Ekstrom. I think the beautiful thing about our school safety department is that it is independent and that the board can control it and oversee it. And I worry that with this IGA, we would be inviting a higher presence of law enforcement on our campus. And so with that, I do have some comments and questions. First, when TUSD School Safety Department needs backup from TPD or the Sheriff's Department or fire, do they call 911 or do they have a direct line?
You call 911.
Okay. Because I've heard that at times when we do need backup, sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. And I'm wondering if, even if we move forward with this IGA, in light of the staff shortage with TPD, this is not even a guarantee that we'll have them there when we need them.
And, I don't want to go too far into the weeds, so I'd invite Mr. Fitzgerald, but I want to be timely with this. They elevate different calls for different priorities, 1 through 5.
Right.
And that's all based on the information that they get. So if they're not getting the real-time information about how this situation that we're dealing with has been elevated, and there's that gap in information, they're not going to elevate it and make it more of a priority for them. So we've had those situations where we've had, I can think of one off the top of my head that I think a principal in here may have also shared with, but it was a critical situation where it really got elevated really fast. But because of that breakdown in communication between us, because basically right now it's officer going to a dispatcher going to another dispatcher, then going out there. This will kind of streamline that information so we're sharing that real time.
Right. Yeah, and I know there's so many variables that have contributed to all of these issues, and what I've heard over the years in the community, and also with what Prop 414 brought to light, as far as like the existing issues in like the dispatch of the City of Tucson system, and seeing that there are 13 agencies that are already there. I'm just wondering if, they can handle us to integrate into them, and seems like we're doing okay. I know our school safety team rises to the occasion when they need to. And so I'm not sure if this is completely necessary at this moment. If we do go forward with this IGA, will this trigger any reduction in our school safety staff?
No.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Okay. And how many people do we have now for dispatch?
At dispatch?
Yeah.
6? Yeah, currently we have 6 providing 24/7 coverage, so it's a little lean.
Okay.
Definitely wouldn't be going down.
I see. And would those 6 TUSD staff members have their own room, or what does that look like? I know we saw the image, but does each agency have their little space?
Good evening, Dr. Trujillo, President Ekstrom, and members of the board. Yeah, so just for the overall situation of our Public Safety Communications Department, we're not just police. Police is a small component of it. And we're doing this, bringing out a lot of outside agencies as part of our department. For example, a lot of times people in the community don't need a police officer and don't need a firefighter. They need mental health. So we have a whole section of our facility on mental health. We don't get access to any of that information. It's walled off, and they operate independently. We're doing the same thing with TUSD. They're going to be operating just like they were before. We're not going to be involved in any way except for providing the equipment and training on the latest dispatch procedures that we offer to our classes anyway as people are coming through. But there'll be no additional involvement from us unless it's requested. So for example, if there is a call that TPD isn't responding quick enough, well, maybe that call is a priority level 5, which is going to get a delayed response because of the lack of resources or how busy TPD is. But there may be something that the TUSD dispatchers could say, hey, you guys are missing this, and now it's a priority 2. And that triggers an immediate response from TPD. So it's that information sharing that will get a more effective response. And if there is something major, then we have a real-time crime center, which we call the Community Safety Awareness Center, because it's not really just a real-time crime center. We have our water department. We have all different agencies that are going to be mixing in just for information. So it's something we have set up now. We have other agencies, but they manage themselves. We're just providing the roof, some training, and some equipment.
Thank you for the information. Yeah, I mean, I know we spoke already about some of the gaps in information and all of that, and lack of, I don't know, certain agencies showing up when needed. And I know some of this is just, staffing issues, some is other things, and it's not always a fault of our district, but maybe just maybe they don't realize that there's a school in the area where there's a suspect who is like roaming around. And so I think we can just be smarter about like, your agency knowing where our schools are. I'm really hesitant to vote for this at this time, knowing that like we're doing okay where our dispatch is now. And I think the improvements that can be made are just, logistical things and opening up those communication channels. I do worry about the sharing of data and also the potential increase in like law enforcement at some of our schools. So, yeah, thank you.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Can I get it? Okay, here we go. My question is concerning funding. Now, you said that this first year was covered by the grant. So you would have to come back next year for, if I'm looking at this correctly, after 1 year, the CAD maintenance, but you said this would come out of your department funding.
Correct.
Okay, so you don't foresee coming to the board for further,
No, we're talking about $6,000 over 5 years. I think we can leverage some, shift some priorities to ensure that we can cover that.
okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move the item.
Second.
There's a motion by Ms. Luna Rose, seconded by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Mr. Romero?
Yes.
Dr. Robbie?
Yes.
Ms. Luna Rose?
Yes.
Ms. Shaw?
No.
Ms. Ekstrom?
No. Motion passes 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to call to the audience. Dr. Shaw?
Thank you, President Ekstrom. Members of the public may speak during the call to the audience. The governing board clerk shall be responsible for recognizing speakers and for maintaining order where it may be appropriate. Those who speak in person or want to have their comments read shall email or call the board office or complete a request to address the board form before the meeting. Speakers who have not completed a request form are not permitted to address the board. The speaker must state their full name and topic prior to addressing the board. Speakers are encouraged to be brief with a maximum time of 3 minutes. While more than one speaker may speak together in the time allowed, speakers are reminded that they are not allowed to speak more than once, and they may not transfer or delegate their time to others. If there are documents for the board, please give them to the board office staff, and they will ensure each board member receives a copy. Those attending the meeting and are speaking before the board shall observe rules of good conduct. Speakers shall also refrain from inappropriate or slanderous remarks. And because TUSD serves students from preschool through high school, speakers should be aware there may be children present and listening. At the end of the call to the audience, the governing board president will ask if any board member wishes to respond to criticism, wish to ask staff to review a matter, or wish to ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. No more than 2 members may address each topic. Contents of this card are public information. All right, so tonight we have 5 in-person speakers. We'll start with Mr. Michael Conrad, followed by Firoz Azizi, Jim Brin, Lillian Fox, and then Pilar Acosta.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. My name is Michael Conrad. I'm here tonight to make a plea for your advocacy for school administrators. Our school-based administrators are underpaid an average of $10,000 a year compared to other nearby districts. And I'd like to give you some background this evening as to why your advocacy in particular is so necessary. My student teaching was here in TUSD. I was a proud teacher and member of TEA. I taught at a school I loved, in a district I loved, supported and encouraged by a community of professionals that surrounded me to help me in my work. Whatever our pay, whatever difficulties we faced, I always knew that our governing board, my principal, and my colleagues and my entire community supported me in the work that I did. I earned my master's degree and got my administrator's certificate, hoping to take my love of teaching to a level where I could impact a wider range of students.
I was shocked by a few things when I went into administration. I was shocked that for the first time there were people who hated me simply because of the title of my job. I was shocked that for the first time there were no level of effort or minutes that I could put in or hours that I could put in any particular day to finish the work that I had set before me. And I was shocked that sometimes no matter what my fellow administrators were able to accomplish, successes were often minimally acknowledged while failures became career-ending events. Despite all that, I loved every school that I served in. I loved the work that I did. I was lucky enough to take a turn working in central office and got to see behind the scenes and help chart the course of our district. And while I enjoyed that, after 4 years, I was able to return to site principalship and must say that I found more joy being able to work directly with students and teachers. Our entire focus as administrators is the support of our teachers and the students that they work with day to day. We advocate for them, we advocate for their health and well-being, we advocate for their success, but we rarely advocate for ourselves as administrators. What you need to know is that just because we're not here in force with 100 voices to speak out about the inequities facing us, it's because our entire role is the support of others. And sometimes just trying to speak up on our own behalf becomes unimaginable. So administrators have that role of support for everyone. And even standing here with a positive recital of my experiences within our district, asking for your help in closing that $10,000 wage gap can seem like a betrayal. So thank you for your advocacy.
Next, we have Firoz Azizi.
My name is Firoz Azizi. I am a community member, also a substitute teacher. Hello to the members of the board. Again, I'm here as a substitute teacher to urge you to push the district to stop stalling in our negotiations. When the board recognized us last summer, we agreed to come to the table ready to bargain, but the administration hasn't kept their end of the deal, and it's been disappointing. Of the extremely few meetings that we've been able to schedule with admin, numerous meetings have been canceled and delayed. One of the stipulations of recognition was that our union and administration would create a joint survey for all substitutes to respond to. Our side of the survey was complete by November 2024. The district didn't fulfill their end of the survey until February 26th, a whole 4 months later. The contract we're negotiating is brand new from the bottom up and requires more time and consideration, something the district isn't respecting. I'm also here to ask that you advocate and support a year-end stipend for substitute teachers of up to $600 that was approved for all other bargaining units within the district. Substitutes are hurting. The cost of even our most basic necessities, like eggs, bread, meat, veggies, rent, are skyrocketing. The stipend would help alleviate some of the strain that substitute educators face daily. I ask that you not leave behind substitute educators. When the district fails to come to the table to even meet with us, we're left behind. When we fail to see our hard work recognized, we're left behind. Substitute educators deserve a fair agreement and to be included in pay stipends this year, and I hope you can work with us to make that happen. Thanks.
Jim Byrne, followed by Lillian Fox.
Good evening, Governing Board, President Ekstrom, Superintendent Trujillo, Legal Counsel Ross. Jim Byrne, President TEA. We're proud to have substitute educators in a temporary agreement and representation. The very creative solution that we came to an agreement upon last year, that we represent them conditioned upon a ratification of that agreement is contingent upon an agreement being reached. And so, I think we're doing good things at the table. These educators are filling in vital situations. I think about the times that I have been a substitute, whether I was back home in New York in a couple different districts, and filling in those floater roles, to being one here, starting in the juvenile detention facility, and then knowing as a classroom educator the vital role that substitute educators can play in emergency situations when something comes up, whether that is an employee gets sick, there's a family emergency. I remember my daughter dropped a bench on her toe and bang, I had to be out of there. And so the coverage that our substitutes provide daily for our schools and our students is like no other job. Very few other industries have floating, roaming substitutes that can step in and provide a continuing education, that there are lesson plans and unit plans and emergency plans available so that the learning can continue. So seeking that stipend so that those who qualify, who continue to show their commitment to our classrooms, continue to show the commitment to TUSD day in and day out, qualify for that stipend so that they can get rewarded for their commitment to our students in this district. So we hope we can get that across the finish line. Thanks.
Thank you. We have Lillian Fox, followed by Pilar Acosta.
President of the board members, Superintendent Robert Ross, and Yolanda Barboa. I'm not going to talk about this. Some misinformation was passed out in the audit committee. This is what the facts are on how TUSD teachers pay compares to the Arizona average. I didn't touch this graph. This is from the Auditor General. What I am going to talk about is this. We are a horrible district. We're failing to educate the kids. We really are. It's shameful. And the district is doing virtually nothing to do anything about it. We have only 27% of our kids are proficient in English language arts. Only 21% are proficient in math. So to solve the problem, we have 12 math recovery teachers total. That's it for the whole district. And 30 reading recovery teachers. That is ridiculous. You have so many kids who need extra help and they're not getting it. Furthermore, for our libraries this year, which is what kids need in order they have to have engaging books, we have budgeted $4,000 for almost 40,000 kids. So our kids have 10 cents a student for library books and media. Our superintendent, on the other hand, the guy who makes like $230,000 a year, he's budgeted $1,000 to buy his books and media. That's ridiculous. Now, he also was interviewed recently and claims that TUSD's academic performance is better now than when he was first hired. He's done wonders. We are now back up better than we were before COVID. Not true. The blue bars are TUSD's performance. The orange bars are the Arizona average performance. We're way below average. As you'll see, the blue bars went way down after COVID, and we've never gotten back up to where we were with COVID on English language arts. The state average, they're back up to what they were. On the other hand, math, am I done? Okay. On math, we're even worse. We were terrible before COVID, and we have become truly pitiful. We've got to do something to improve this. Somebody told me 30% of the kids in Tanque Verde are TUSD kids. Tanque Verde has great academic performance. We've got to become competitive. We've got to start educating our kids. This is a sin when our kids can't read and they can't do math. I was a high school teacher here. I had plenty of kids who couldn't read, couldn't do any math that involved fractions. That shouldn't be. We've got to have the recovery teachers. We've got to have the programs to help kids catch up and get where they need to be. Thank you.
Our last in-person speaker is Pilar Acosta.
Good evening. My name is Pilar Acosta Ruiz, and I have several things I want to talk about, but I'm going to start with 8.2. Well, actually, I'm going to start with, many of you were endorsed as pro-labor. Get the substitutes a contract. Why are you dragging your feet? Okay, so 8.2. I'm looking at this proposed reductions in positions by department. I see only one assistant superintendent in here from EDI, which I think you guys have been trying to get rid of for a while. You're trying to get rid of somebody for HVAC, facilities technician. We all know that air conditionings break. That seems like a really important position. And the internal auditor, for God's sakes, it took years to get an internal auditor, and because this internal auditor that was just here recently got pushed out for telling the truth, you're now going to get rid of the position. TUSD needs more transparency, not less. A whole lot more. As a matter of fact, when the audit charter came for a proposed revision a couple months ago, weeks ago, whatever it was, one of you opposed it because it had the word transparency in there. Again, TUSD needs as much transparency as possible. Like, why should we be afraid of the word transparency? Just because it was, quote, your job. And safety. I don't know if you all heard it or how recent it was, but I did see on Facebook that a student, and I have advocated for this from this podium before. Our kids are TUSD's responsibility to get to and from school, for the most part, safely. Our bus stops are full of fentanyl, inappropriate behaving people, and somebody from the Gridley Middle School just got assaulted at a bus stop. Many of you are really good friends with some of our city elected officials. You need to be advocating to clean up the bus stops. It is not okay for our kids to be getting assaulted on Suntran or at Suntran bus stops. And that has been happening. And so now you want to cut the school safety people too. So safety, education and safety should be your top two priorities. So this is ridiculous. Most of these people on here, not most of them, some of them are in direct contact with children, okay? You need to cut, instead of anything to do with site administrators and teachers and bus drivers and dispatch from bus drivers who are gonna tell you if little Johnny got dropped off at the wrong corner, you need to work at 1010. You need to cut from central admin. You need to cut some of the waterfall of employees under assistant superintendents. And the town hall for the bond oversight committee, more than just the TUSD community paid for that. We need to be invited to a forum.
Thank you. We have 5 letters to be read. The first one is by Alexander Gonzalez, who's a student, graduation attire and dress code. Good afternoon. I am submitting a request for the board to discuss regarding a student's ability to don a stole representative of our own culture. I am a Mexican student who will be graduating this coming May and was hoping to wear a stole portraying the Mexican flag as a way to show my pride of mine and my family's culture. However, when discussing the topic with my principal, I was made aware that I would not be allowed to wear one given by my family to wear as I walked to stage. To my understanding, the student would be allowed to don a stole representative of the culture upon receiving one from the district after gaining a Cultural Excellence Award commendment for having a GPA of 3.25 or higher. I understand the importance of recognizing these students for their work and achievements. However, I do think it is strange to, in a sense, limit a student's ability to represent themselves and their family's culture behind a GPA. I hope this message finds you well and that you consider a possible change in the exceptions change in the dress code rules for graduation in order to allow students to fully represent and showcase pride in their family's culture and heritage. Next letter is from Susan Kelly about the GATE program issues. Dear Governing Board, we are writing to bring to your attention to some ongoing concerns regarding the current structure of the Gifted and Talented Education GATE pull-out programming, particularly in light of recent changes and possible proposed changes to the department. As you know, GATE was previously a cohesive unit that encompassed both GATE programs and GATE testing. However, following the decision to split these functions, there have been significant challenges and communication gaps that are now affecting our ability to serve students and families effectively. The ALE director now utilizes one of our programmatic coordinators to manage GATE testing and other ALE tasks, to include AP testing and AVID GATE IB dual credit recruitment. Since this restructuring, we have encountered numerous issues related to communication with schools and other departments. Our team often experiences delays in receiving responses from GATE testing team, which impacts our ability to meet students' needs in a timely manner. Additionally, despite our concerns, we have found that the ALE director and the ALE testing coordinator have been unwilling to address or acknowledge these issues. Below, I have outlined some specific concerns that have been repeatedly dismissed. 1. Errors in GATE testing and placement. The GATE testing and placement office has frequently made errors in student placements, which has led to confusion and required the GATE programs office to address and resolve these mishaps. Also, the delay in proper identification of students has caused teachers to not have an accurate list of students to service, causing some students to be serviced who should not have been, or to miss students who should be serviced. 2. Pre-GATE first grade students. Pre-GATE first grade pilot students were not removed from the pull-out working list this school year. As a result, itinerant teachers were left to explain to upset students why they could no longer be serviced, and the GATE programs office was left to contact families and clarify the situation. 3. Overrepresentation in affluent areas. While we welcome the district's move toward local norming, we have seen unintended consequences in certain areas. Specifically, schools in neighborhoods such as Fruit Tendler, Lineweaver, Sam Hughes, and Davis Bilingual are experiencing significant growth in GATE pullout sessions. This overcrowding compromises the personalized support that our gifted students need and dilutes the quality of instruction that we are able to provide these students, these gifted students who are genuinely qualified. 4. Expected student number increase. Preliminary reports. The next letter is from Robert Carrillo, AI Classroom. Hello, my name is Robert Carrillo, and I'm a teacher at McCorkle K-8, and I have been teaching for 13 years. Generative AI is an important tool, and I appreciate the board and our district staff taking a deeper dive into it to make it a useful tool for staff and students to use. Generative AI has allowed me to become a more thoughtful and engaging teacher. At McCorkle, we use project-based learning as a main vector of our learning. We often create scenario-based projects and engage our students in real-world products. I have used generative AI to help me plan projects with photography, game coding, theater, house design, and short film production. I use generative AI to give me plans on what professionals would do to create these different products while focusing on the standards that need to be taught. This allows students to be engaged and learn skills that would not be possible with traditional learning. I can ask for collaborative activities and run through protocols that mirror the professions. Like all teachers, when planning my projects, I verify the information is correct and dive deeper into other resources that I would have never have thought of to look for. Though I have not used to for grading, it could also be an invaluable tool for grading work. The assessments, standards, accountability, and research for the Arizona Department of Education states it uses humans to grade 10% of their written assessments. The rest are graded by a computer program that looks for patterns. As for students, generative AI can be just as useful. Students should have access to features and programs that the district pays for, like Canva. Canva is a media editing website and has features that students could use to expand their creativity. Features like image creation, Image Magic Edit, and Magic Studio. I agree that not all forms of generative AI should be allowed, for example, the use of large language models. It is obvious to think that students would use it to cheat on essays and other text-based work. A motivated student will find ways to look up answer keys, copy and paste work found from the internet, or ask a friend to do the work for them. It is up to our teachers to monitor what students are capable from multiple data sources, not just written computer work. To cast a blanket ban on all generative AI software would be a disservice to our students and staff. Thank you.
Excuse me, Dr. Robbie?
Yes.
We're at the 20-minute mark.
We have one more letter. I'll move to, we have 2 more letters to be read.
Second.
Okay. I'll move to have those 2 letters to be read.
There's a motion by Dr. Shaw, second by Ms. Shaw to extend call to the audience. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.
All right, the next letter is from Miguel Sanchez, letter submitted to board staff by Manzo former PTP members. Dear TUSD Governing Board, we, the Manzo Elementary School community, write to express serious concerns regarding the leadership of Principal Maitorena, who was appointed 2 years ago. Over the course of her tenure, we have witnessed the unraveling of a vibrant, collaborative school culture in Barrio Hollywood. The school community, once characterized by unity and active parent involvement, has become divided under her administration. Previously, Manzo thrived with a dedicated parent-teacher partnership, PTP, that organized annual events such as Boo Bash, Trunk or Treat, the Rodeo Barbecue, and the School Fiesta. These events brought joy to students and fostered a strong connection between the school and its community. During Teacher Appreciation Week, the PTP generously provided meals, treats, and tokens of gratitude to teachers. These efforts were driven by parents committed to supporting both staff and students. Unfortunately, due to ongoing opposition from Principal Maitorena, the PTP was forced to disband. This loss has deeply impacted community engagement, and no new organization has formed since. Many parents no longer feel welcomed or valued, and as a result, several have chosen to withdraw their children from Manzo and enroll them elsewhere. The challenges extend beyond the parent community. Numerous staff members have either left voluntarily or dismissed, often citing irreconcilable differences with the principal. There are additional concerns we urge the board to investigate by speaking directly with current and former staff. Many have chosen to remain silent due to a legitimate fear of retaliation. While the school did earn a B rating last year, much of that credit belongs to dedicated teachers, staff, and former principal, Mr. Stephen La Turco. In light of these issues, we respectfully request that the board conduct an independent audit or investigation into Principal Maitorena's leadership and management practices. Should she remain in her role, we strongly recommend that she receive professional development in personnel management, communication, human relations, and workplace etiquette. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. Sincerely, Miguel Sanchez and the Manzo Elementary School community. And the final letter is from Rosa Mang, to be read, Concerns of Manzo Leadership. Dear Tucson Unified Governing Board, I'm writing to express serious concerns regarding the current leadership at Ricardo Manzo Elementary, specifically the behavior and decisions of Principal Brenda Maitorena. This school has always been more than just a place of learning. It has been a strong, close-knit community. Under the previous principal, Stephen La Turco, the school thrived. Parents, staff, and volunteers worked together, and there was a real sense of shared purpose. It was a warm, welcoming environment that felt like an extension of home. That spirit has been lost under the current administration. The recent removal of long-standing dedicated volunteer aides without proper communication or explanation is a clear example. These individuals were a vital part of the school community, helping both students and staff. Their removal was abrupt, confusing, and frankly hurtful to those who invested so much of their time and care into the school. Beyond that, the principal's communication style is consistently poor. Many interactions with her feel needlessly cold or dismissive. It feels as though she is dismantling the very foundation that made the school exceptional in the first place. Our school is a model of community strength and support. That has been seriously undermined, and families are feeling the shift. I urge your school board to look into these growing concerns and hear from those affected. We want to restore the spirit that once made this school special. I don't want to have to pull my girls from this incredible school, and I'm plenty sure of the parents feel that. I'm sure plenty of the other parents feel the same. Thank you for your time and attention. Sincerely, Rosa Mang. That concludes our call to the audience. President Ekstrom.
Thank you. Would any board member like to address any topics from call to the audience? Ms. Luna Rose?
Thank you, Ms. Ekstrom. And thank you to everybody who came this evening and spoke and sent in letters. I just have one, actually, concerning the students for graduation. And I guess maybe this is my question, is maybe to Mr. Ross. As I'm looking up IKFB-R, which is governing board policy, can you kind of go over what the student would have to do if they want to have something that's not policy related? I guess it relates to the fact that this young man wants to wear something that is reflective of his culture.
Well, Ms. Luna Rose, this is not on the board's agenda, but I would just generally say that a student can go to either the Student Support Service Department or to their principal or the regional assistant superintendent. But again, this isn't something that's on the board's agenda.
Okay. My apologies. Well, that's all I had.
Madam President?
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. Following Ms. Luna Rose, I would like to put on a future agenda review of the matter raised by the student Alexandra Gonzalez, and also review all the graduation requirements at her school and all of our high schools in TUSD. Hopefully at the next meeting, so that, like, I know graduation is coming up soon, but I do want to, like, make sure that students can, support their culture, and also that students aren't left out of graduation because of arbitrary rules that some school sites might have. Second, I'd like to ask staff to follow through with the negotiations with our substitutes. Subs keep our schools and our district running, and I really did expect that now that they're under TEA, that they would be treated as equals and be totally, given the rights and responsibilities that all of our other bargaining units and employee groups share. And so I'd like staff to give them time to make their requests known and have that brought to the governing board. Let's see, I'd like to ask staff to review the matter raised by Ms. Kelly in regards to gate issues and the restructuring and the sharing of staff with the ALE department, and also like staff to review the matter that's been raised at Monzo Elementary. Thank you.
Any other governing board members have anything to add? Thank you. That concludes call to the audience. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. That is items 6.2 through 6.7. Dr. Trujillo.
President Extra, members of the board, we'd like for your consideration of consent agenda items 6.2 to 6.7 as arranged and presented.
I'll move the item.
The item has been moved by Dr. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you and congratulations to all the assistant principals at Choya High School, Pueblo High School, Rincon High School, Saguaro High School, Tucson Unified Virtual Academy, Booth Pickett, C. Rose, McGee Middle School, Seacrest Middle School, Valencia Middle School, and Grijalva Elementary School. And if you are here, please come up for a photo. Next, we'll move on to item 7.1. If I can just have everybody move out and
Have to line. You have to go home. Can't stay here. Break.
then I'll go to the restroom.
There you go. I'll take that opportunity too.
Actually, I will too.
I'll just say.
We are taking a quick 5-minute bathroom break. Thank you.
I'm doing a career day at one of the schools.
Oh, okay. What do you call? Okay.
I could see it in my head. Yeah, I'm be there for an hour, probably like 2 to 3 All right. Thank you. Was it good? I think especially you, Rob. No, but I want you to. That way I said it was wrong.
Yolanda, you'll send us the names that signed that letter, right? Oh, the names that signed that Monzo letter? You'll send it? I'll send it. Okay, thank you.
I don't know, I thought there was a button. It's obvious none of us handle knives. Except maybe that when we're cutting meat.
Okay, we'll come back from our break. Item 7.1 is administrative appointments. Principal at Booth Pickett K through 8 school, Dr. Trujillo.
President Ekstrom, members of the governing board, tonight it's an honor to welcome back one of our superstar employees. I remember my earlier days in the district going to visit Carrillo, and no visit to Carrillo would be complete without visiting with its proud magnet coordinator. At the time, we used to call him Mr. SV, Mr. Sosa Villanueva, but unfortunately, he departed the district for a little bit. He went through our leadership prep program. I remember seeing him in our leadership training program for up-and-coming administrators and principals. Lost him for a little bit as he went over to Marana, became a wrestling coach, and by the way, was a longtime wrestling coach. I believe it was Choya. And went over to Marana, became the wrestling coach, and became assistant principal there at one of the region's larger high schools there for about 3 years. And most recently, he's been serving as the principal of Baba Kivari out there in Sells, Arizona. Robert really passionately communicated a vision for Booth Pickett, and I think one of the things that impressed me in our final round interview is the way that you spoke about the school that's going to be, the school that can be. Instead of, and I think that differentiated some of the conversations that I'd had with some previous applicants about some of the immediate challenges. So I'm proud to support his aspirational vision for this school as I recommend for consideration by the governing board the next principal for Booth Pickett K-8, Mr. Robert Villanueva.
So moved.
I'll second.
The motion has been moved by Ms. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Villanueva. If you would like to come up and say a few words, the floor is yours.
Thank you for those kind words, Dr. Trujillo and governing board. I'm a little nervous. I feel as though I spent a lot of time in TUSD, 20 years, and then my journey took me in different places, and I gained a lot of different and new experiences, and it feels so good to be back home. This is where a lot of the training took place for me here. And I'm excited. I was excited driving over here and walking through those doors again. And I can't wait to bring this new vision and sense of enthusiasm and excitement back to Booth Thicket. I've learned from the best. I worked at Carrillo with my Carrillo crew for over 15 years, so I know what it's like to be at the top with these guys, and I want to bring that enthusiasm and all that knowledge back to Booth Thicket. And I'm excited with my new AP, Mr. Yuri, who's here as well. So I think together we're going to make a dynamic team. So thank you guys for your consideration, and I feel honored and blessed to be back, and it feels good to be home again. So, and we can't wait to do big things at Booth Thicket. So thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, if we can get a quick picture with our new administrator, that'd be great.
And if you step over this way just a little bit, we'll stay out of the way of the podium. Thank you so much. Very nice. Looking great. Look at me, please. Thank you.
Next is item 7.2, approval of to procure goods and services for quarter bond for project priorities. Dr. Trujillo.
Yes, President Ekstrom, board members, I'd like to present program manager for the bond program, Dr. Charlotte Carter. We've got some exciting projects up for governing board approval tonight for our quarter 4 priorities.
Good evening, board president and board members. As Dr. Trio said, I'm Dr. Charlotte Carter, and it is a pleasure to be able to present a few more quarter 4 bond projects and priorities for procurement of goods and services. So this evening, we have convection oven replacements in our HVAC retrofits that are already been approved. So we want to be able to have convection ovens while we have the various kitchens down to also capitalize on that and do the replacements, which is also already in the bond. And then as well, we have dish machine replacements, which are the commercial of the dishwashers. And we also want to do that at the time while we have the kitchens down doing the retrofits for HVAC. And then lastly, we have the white fleet vehicles for facilities management. We want to be able to purchase 9 more vehicles. That's going to help us continue the curb appeal for our schools. So let's go to the detailed list. Okay. Ooh, that is very small. So here we actually show for the convection ovens, the specific schools that we're going to do, which is Davis Elementary Magnet and also Robbins K-8. And then for the dish machines, we have Davis Elementary Magnet, Robbins K-8, and also Robeson. And so as you can see, I have the cost for that, as well as the support of the vehicles for the white fleet. And this is for our facilities management team. And so as you can see, we have our total cost for this Q4 projects. And what I am hoping to have you do is consider and recommend the action to grant authority to the purchasing director in conjunction with the bond program manager, myself, to procure the goods and services using approved TUSD and cooperative contracts for the fourth wave of bond projects, not to exceed plus 20% contingency where single purchases may exceed $250,000, or for cumulative purchases with cooperative contracts, vendors in excess of $250,000. So this is the next set of projects that we would like to do. We have already had this approved by the Bond Oversight Committee on April 17th. Any questions?
Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, and thank you, Dr. Carter, for coming and joining us tonight again. My question is, if we approve this tonight, can you tell me how the procurement and everything is going to be aligning to the sustainability policy we passed in October? So when we buy the vehicles and do other things, are they going to be electric vehicles, like so that we save costs on diesel down the, or other fuel costs down the road? Like, what are we doing to make sure that everything we are doing with the bond is aligning with what we had already approved as a governing board with our current policy and sustainability?
So I am going to have Greg Myers, which he is the facilities director, to come and address that question.
Good evening, everyone. So in regard to that particular question, the vehicles that we chose to go with this round are gas powered, but I think, you know, what we'll want to try to do is to provide infrastructure for electric vehicles going forward, but we haven't got to that piece yet, but that's what we decided to go with on this go around here. And another reason too is because of the immediate need for those vehicles. Those were readily available, and so that's why we decided to go that route, so that we could get them quicker, because we are really in not a good position in the grounds department right now. And as a result of the a contract that was approved by the board with Brightview Landscaping, it's just another reason why we needed to try to act as quick as we could with what was readily available. But that is something we can certainly consider going forward.
Okay, I appreciate that, and you know, I'll vote in favor of this tonight, but I don't want anything else coming back to us until we've started like putting together the infrastructure. Because we timed the approval of the sustainability policy knowing that we were going to be spending a lot of money in the bond, and I want to make sure we're not wasting the money on the bond with things that we can do in a different way that's going to save us money long term. That was one of the purposes of the sustainability, not just in terms of minimizing our carbon footprint, but also saving the district money longer term when it comes to our maintenance operation budget with fuel and other costs. So I'll support this tonight, but I ask the staff as well as our bond oversight committee to make sure that we are aligning what we're approving and moving forward with implementation of our sustainability policy as well with our bond purchases.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Mr. Romero and then Ms. Shaw.
Greg, another question for you. So just out of curiosity, these vehicles, so when I was at one of the schools and I saw Speedy with his truck and his trailer, is it those vehicles that we're looking at being replaced?
Well, some of these vehicles, we had some photos for the Bond Oversight Committee, and they don't even have paint on some of them. I mean, it's pretty embarrassing. And actually, 4 of the vehicles we couldn't even find parts for anymore, so we had to send them to the auction block. And so, because, you know, we just don't, I guess you could say, take something to the junkyard. We always try to auction, of course. And so that's where they went. So we were down 4 right there. And so the other 4 are at least 25 years old. The dump truck is 34 years old, I think, if I remember right. But anyway, so that's the 9th vehicle. The other 8 vehicles are the utility trucks.
And how many miles do you think each truck gets put on a daily basis?
In a day? I just saw that number like last week, and because we had a presentation on that, and I think it's over 200,000 miles. I think, I just don't remember for sure. I might have to get back to you on that.
Sure,
because we had the yellow fleet number, and then we had the white fleet number. But the 200,000 miles sticks in my mind, but I don't know if that was, you know, per quarter or what that was, but it's a lot of miles. But I could find out for sure on that one. That number just escapes me right now.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate finding out what that number is, and thank you very much.
But they're not in a good position, so
No.
we really appreciate the help with
You
this.
are correct, because I do a lot of driving as well. Like I said, when I saw their vehicle, what they were sitting in to go from school site to school site, and I've seen these vans and trucks that you talk about, the paint is all gone off. You see TUSD very lightly on the side of the door, and I go, I hope we sold that and they didn't take that off.
Well, we always make sure that the names are erased before we sell them, and so just so everybody knows. But the big thing that I'm really excited about is that 5 out of those 8 vehicles are actually the crew cabs, which means that we can get more people in the cabs. You try to put 3 big groundskeepers in just a regular cab, that's a tight fit. So I'm really excited about those 5 crew cabs, because that's going to help the department tremendously.
And that was also going to be my next question, so thank you for answering that for me.
Okay, very good.
Ms. Shaw?
Thank you, Dr. Carter and Mr. Meyer, for your presentation and answering our questions. Some of the questions I had were already answered. I was wondering if our grounds crew was going to benefit from this purchase. I'm happy to see that they will be. And I just want to raise awareness to the issue I saw at Cragen with their roof that's been leaking for years. If Ms. Ekstrom, you could raise awareness with that, I think they deserve to have like a roof replacement, hopefully this summer, because when it is raining, they say that, the water just pours down inside the building, and like we've been replacing the ceiling tiles for quite a long time, and yeah, I just hope we can move them up in the schedule. I'm not sure where they are now. I know that's not even agendized, so I just wanted to raise awareness for this item for.
I'd like to respond to that.
Okay.
And so thank you very much for bringing up Cragen. That has been with the school facilities department for 6 years for replacement, and it still hasn't been done. It's an asphalt roof. I frankly don't get it.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I mean, I know who we're buying the buckets from, and I think I should have stock in that company, because we buy a lot of buckets because of these leaks, because of these deficient roofs that we have. So we just have to continue to try to push the point with the school facility department. Cragen isn't the only one. Robeson is another one I can think of right at the top of my head. Our high schools, we completed Catalina, but now we're going on to Choya next. Rincon's got a lot of problems in the U building, and we just have a lot of roof problems right now, and so I'm glad you brought that up, because we'll try to keep pushing.
Dr. Trujillo?
I want to clarify, you mean the State Facilities Board, not
Department,
TUSD
yeah.
facilities. Everybody watching,
No.
it's not us
Yeah.
delaying for 6 years. It's the State Facilities
Yeah,
Board.
the State
Okay.
Facilities Board, in Phoenix.
So
yeah.
it's on the docket for them to fix it, as well
That's
as
right.
other schools, but for some reason, they're just dragging their feet, or there's just more.
Yeah,
in front of
I
us.
just don't see the priority in regard to roofs. So, that's just the way I see it, but we'll continue to try to push for that, because Cragen's been on the docket for a long time, but I appreciate you bringing that up.
Of course, thank you for clarifying.
And I just want to let my colleagues know that the fleet vehicles, they're like dump trucks, and so I don't know if there's an electric.
You might have your electric
Yeah.
versions, okay. I appreciate that.
But I think one is from 1991, something crazy like that. So,
I was a junior in high school.
Well,
and I have to
I was
say-
only 10 at that time, just kidding.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But honestly, we've used those trucks up, so I'm so glad that we're able to replace them. And if also, Dr. Carter, if we could just get a list of what's coming up next as far as like security and fencing and that type of thing, because I was at Robinson yesterday, and they said they've been waiting a long time for their fencing. So I would just appreciate that.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yes, Ms. Luna Rose.
Just one quick question, and it's for you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for making that clarification, Ms. Ekstrom. These 9 vehicles, jump trucks, I'm assuming they're bought like as commercial vehicles?
They are, yeah. There's, like I said, there's 5 crew cab utility trucks, so those are 3/4 ton. And then the other 3 are 3/4 ton regular cab utility trucks. And then the dump truck is the 9th vehicle. That was the 91 or whatever that was. And so I have to give kudos out to our auto shop. They do a great job trying to keep these vehicles on the road because it's a big task for them, but they really do a good job. So I want to make sure that we give them proper recognition for the work that they do.
All right, well, thank you. I'd like to echo that. And with that, I'd like to move the item.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Ms. Luna Rose, seconded by Dr. Shaw. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you so much. Next is approval of proposed dress code for Dodge Traditional Magnet Middle School. Dr. Trujillo?
Yes, President Ekstrom, I'd like to welcome our proud principal at Dodge, Brenda Mennigan, to walk us through what the proposed changes are. For those of you watching, Dodge has always had a uniform, so it's not like today they're seeking approval for the initial uniform, but there's some minor changes. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Mennigan.
Thank you, sir. Board President, board members, Dr. Trujillo, thank you this evening. I'm Brenda Mennigan, proud principal of Dodge Traditional Magnet Middle School. Dodge has been a traditional magnet school for many years, and we had a uniform in place, or a dress code, for Dress for Success policy. And we were very proud of that. Recently, last spring, when you adopted a new dress code, we were notified that the actual approved dress code did not reflect, for our school in 2017, did not reflect what we were actually practicing in the building. So we went back to honor what was actually adopted by the board. And so then in the spring, I was asked by the community to go forward with the process of making modifications to reflect what we actually had been practicing prior to that. So what you have before you tonight is the proposal that my community came up with so that we can go back to what we were already honoring.
Any questions? Ms. Shaw?
Thank you, Ms. Mennigan, for bringing this forth to the board. I did participate in the survey. My daughter does go to Dodge, and she enjoys it and also enjoys wearing the uniform, believe it or not, because it makes things so much easier. Although she's probably going to be upset that Crocs are still not allowed, I'm very happy to see that we have the blue color added to the bottoms. So, yeah, thank you for your work and your due diligence in getting that survey out to the Dodge community.
Absolutely. We made some adjustments based on the feedback that we got from families. One of the feedback that we got was that we had always had khaki or black pants, and families said that sometimes blue is easier to find, so we added navy blue. Our teachers also were no longer interested in fighting the battle of tucking in their shirts, so that's no longer part of our modifications either.
Dr. Shaw?
Thank you, President Exner, and thanks for being here tonight and talking about all this work that you guys have been doing at Dodge, and so thanks for all your work over there and being principal there. My question was about the Crocs, and so it says in here, due to safety concerns. Now, I've worked in a lot of industrial places and medical places, and where safety is definitely an issue in terms of open-toed shoes and everything, but I'm confused on what safety concerns we're worried about in schools in terms of why no Crocs, flip-flops, slip-on platforms, or cleats.
So we have science classes, of course, at our campus, including a high school credit course. And so the science teacher has written into the policies for the safety of the labs and stuff that they cannot have open shoes. And with the Crocs having holes, she asked that we add that as well.
Okay, but all of our science, I don't think that's our basic policy for all of our schools in terms of all the middle schools and high schools that have science labs. And so is that something that we want universal for every kid all the time, always, or just when they're in science labs to make sure they have closed-toe scoops?
Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. Currently, they are having to, if they know they're having a lab, make sure that they have appropriate shoes.
Yes, Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know how many parents or students commented that they wanted Crocs. I think I did, but I'm not sure there's even very good support for your foot. I've been having back problems because of the shoes that I wear. And so, I still support this policy, whether Crocs are there or not. And also for those students who are in PE, like Crocs just don't cut it for PE. Even with like, what do they call it? Sports mode. Even in sports mode, they don't cut it. So yeah, I'm comfortable moving this item.
I'll second. Motion has been made by Ms. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to see Crocs on a campus, go to our high school campus. Seriously, it's all they wear.
I don't like Crocs. Item 7.4 is the approval to appoint a new member to serve on the Tucson Unified School District Audit Committee. Dr. Shaw?
Thank you, President Ekstrom. Tonight we have the recommendation from the Audit Committee to appoint Tabitha Fox to the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee met, I believe, 2 weeks ago and unanimously approved this recommendation for the Governing Board.
I will second.
I'll move the item.
Oh, sorry. I got ahead of you.
The item has been moved by Dr. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Ms. Ekstrom?
Yeah.
Ms. Fox is on Zoom.
Oh. Ms. Fox, is there anything that you would like to say? Congratulations on your appointment to the Audit Committee.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me okay with my earbuds. I appreciate the confidence and appointment. Just a quick little background about me. For those who have not seen my materials, I am a CPA, 20 years of experience in financial management. I've committed 13 years of my career to the nonprofit sector, so I'm very passionate about community impact, and I'm happy that my service to the Audit Committee can also help support the community in that way. Thank you so much. I look forward to meeting everybody on the committee and helping bring my expertise to the table to help ensure that the Audit Committee is keeping with the highest standards of financial integrity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Fox, and congratulations again. Next is item 8.2, Tucson Unified School District Administration fiscal year 25 hiring freeze and fiscal year 26 administrative position reductions. Dr. Trio?
President Extra, members of the Governing Board. Just a note for our board members, we did revise an attachment. So now the attachment noting FY26 positional reductions will encompass a list of fully vacant positions. So any position that has been occupied has been removed from that list as we go forward with tonight's consideration. Earlier in the spring, the administration, of course, committed to exacting anywhere between $3.5 to $4 million in cuts across the administration with an effort to try to cut into the year-over-year $8.5 million deficit that we've seen between last year's operating budget and this year's operating budget, or the one coming up for fiscal year 26. And as part of that work, we wanted to start with all of the different vacancies that could be categorized as administrative. And I know that it's sort of popular sentiment to think of the administration as me or 1010. When you're staring down an $8.6 million budget, cutting 8 or 9 positions at $130,000 a pop is not going to get you very far, right? So you have to cut beyond that. Secondly, the Auditor General defines administrative spending as all of the areas that are outside of a general school or outside of a general classroom. So I think when John Q. Public hears administration, they think the principal, the assistant principal, the superintendent, the director, the assistant superintendent. But it really, administration is a category of expenditures. And it ranges from school safety, to finance, to human resources work that's done on behalf of our employees, to secretarial/administrative assistant work in offices across the district. Some of our operations positions are categorized as administrative spending. And as I've said before, even though these positions are vacant, their absence will still affect schools in some way in terms of a reduced capacity to serve in the particular area. So the administration formed a team. We did a cross-departmental team of managers, supervisors, leaders, superintendent leadership team members, representatives of the affected department to really talk about this list and in terms of what their department and what their work area looks like if these positions are not filled. So here to take us through tonight is Mr. Hernandez. This is a study action item, so the board, of course, we know these are big decisions. You can choose to keep this as a study. We want to make sure that the board has plenty of time to digest the information. And we've asked Mr. Hernandez to go through and give the overview.
Good evening, board members, and I do have John Fernandez with me on the HR side. So just getting started. So just a quick background. So the goal of the hiring freeze and the reductions was really to achieve a $5.3 million salary and benefit savings across the institution. We looked at all permanent positions that were vacant as of March 7th. That is for the freeze. We looked at positions that were funded by M&O, whether it's DSEG or non-DSEG M&O, and the indirect costs fund. Just for some context, indirect costs is revenue that we generate off of federal grants. And so, you know, we actually generate about between 3 and 4% off of those federal grants. But as we've seen those grants and the amounts reduced, particularly with the disappearance of ESSER, the revenue that fund generates is obviously dwindling. We exempted several items, so non-permanent supplemental positions. So for example, going into summer school jobs, those can continue to be hired. We've exempted all positions in the exceptional education department, whether they're administrative, service providers, or teachers, or support positions, the exceptional education department is exempt. Anything that is school-based with school budgets, right? So we've established the school budgets already. They finished their budgeting process back in the middle of March, and so we continue to fund those. Classroom or school support positions funded by central department. So we've got Dr. Ashcraft here. Her department funds basically all the fine arts positions in K through 8, and so that's what we mean by school or classroom support positions that are funded by a central department. And then positions in an onboarding process. So obviously we wanted to make sure that people who were in the position of being hired or had a job offer at the March 1 job fair, we could continue to make sure to onboard those individuals. We didn't want to stop them in their tracks. So we took all of these criteria and implemented a freeze. The hiring review committee that Dr. Trujillo just mentioned comprised members of senior leadership, and we brought in, members of management. So people in the senior leadership role spoke or connected with their managers, their directors, to essentially evaluate the positions. We held weekly meetings. We actually are still holding them till today to evaluate all these positions and the process of freezing these through the end of June. HR notified all of the departments on March 19th of all of the affected positions on that day. That position listing is updated weekly, right? Because obviously we've got constant turnover taking place, and all of the vacancy savings from those positions that have been frozen have essentially been frozen themselves through the end of the fiscal year. So if a position, let's just, an admin assistant leaves in the middle of March, has left essentially, let's say $15,000 on the table in unused salary, we've frozen that salary. We've set it aside. It will be unused. It will go unused. Now, we established criteria to review positions that prioritize, obviously, the health, safety, and the services to students, right? We wanted to make sure that not everything gets frozen, that there were positions, for example, campus monitors. We have some crossing guards, for example, that will continue. We have locksmiths that will continue to be hired. So some of them have been evaluated for recruitment today, as of now, because those are so critical that we need to make sure that they're hired before the new fiscal year. So this is, kind of a lengthier list of the criteria. So the direct impact to instruction, to academic intervention, to support services, any operational necessity, if we have compliance and legal mandates. So for example, when I mentioned crossing guards, a lot of those crossing guards are with agreements that we established either with the city of Tucson or Pima County government for various intersections that work, and that are identified by Mr. Hallams in the school safety department. So, and then we asked departments to think about the availability of alternative solutions to their existing structure, right? So if we freeze your position, obviously you've got 2 months, 3 months to continue to do that work. Is there an alternative structure to continue with the process of the work that has to get done, knowing full well that our budget is getting smaller, right? So we have to essentially the unpopular term is we have to right size you somehow. But we want directors to take that leadership role and to focus on how you do that. So positions that are frozen right now cannot be filled unless it meets the freeze criteria. Now, departments have just completed their budgeting process. We're going through a process of cleaning everybody's fiscal year 26 budget. Departments are going to be able to fill these vacant frozen positions if their budget capacity exists on July 1. Right, so they now have to establish capacity after incorporating either the 3% or 6% budget cut. If they had a DSEG reduction, budgeting for any potential changes in salary. So we ask all departments to a budget for a 1% for planning purposes, and there was a 2% increase in the cost of benefits. So after all of those elements are incorporated as part of their budgeting process, can I fit that admin assistant back on July 1? If they can, great. You can hire, you can recruit now. That person can't start until July 1, right? We want to make the savings happen this side of the fiscal year. But if you go through that process and you still cannot fill that position because you don't have the capacity to fund both their salary and their benefits, then that position is reduced and that position will be closed. So that essentially takes us to the position reduction. So we notified all of the departments on April 21st of all positions that were identified as permanent reductions in the fiscal year. They identified these positions. Finance did not. We confirmed with departments to tell us, hey, in your budget file, you told us that you're not going to fill, this position, X. And we'll just kind of use the admin assistant example. You're not going to fill that admin assistant. Can you just confirm for me that that is correct? And we received confirmations from all of these departments. Through the budgeting process, we will close those positions as those reductions happen. Because if that department doesn't have the capacity after going through the reductions that they were supposed to, then they can't fill that position. Now, they could cut other portions of their budget and fill the position, right? Say, hey, I have a large, contract services that I'm not gonna do next year. It's about $50,000. But I'm gonna cut that so that I can save the admin assistant. They can absolutely do that. That is how we do budgeting in this district, is we empower the directors to make those choices for the operations of their department. Now, as of April 24th, obviously this listing is now updated on board docs. We had 64.5 FTE that were identified with salary and benefits totaling just over $4.1 million. The vast majority were vacant positions. The listing that you have now in board docs are all vacant positions. All right, so that is the revision that has happened since this presentation was uploaded. Now, if there are positions that have incumbents, we will work with those. They will be subject to any district-initiated transfer or reduction in force process based on their bargaining agreement, and that will be managed by the Human Resources Department if that becomes the case. Otherwise, if it's a vacant position, we're going to close with the direction to not fill. That way a department can't go back and say, I now want to fill that, but you don't have the capacity. Any questions?
Governing board members, Ms. Shaw.
The direction to not fill for some of these vacancies, would that be just until July 1 or after that?
So the hiring freeze list, the permanent reductions list, let's start with that one. That one is the do not hire. Those are positions that departments have confirmed themselves through their budgeting process that they do not have the capacity to accommodate that FTE. So that listing of positions, I believe it's about 50 plus FTE that are on there, those positions will be permanently closed and those dollars will be permanently cut from the budget. The listing of hiring freezes, the longer list that's multiple pages, those savings are frozen through the end of June 30th. If those departments have accommodated budget capacity on July 1, they will be able to hire them. And the vast majority of those that are frozen will be hired. It's really the reductions that are no longer going to be available on July 1. That is a permanent reduction to everybody's budget.
Dr. Shaw.
Thank you, President Ekstrom, and thank you for the presentation tonight, Mr. Hernandez. And so, I don't think any of us want to cut any positions, and even if they're vacant, we know that there's a lot of work that needs to happen in our schools, and we want to make sure the work can continue, whether it's transportation, facilities, and others. I know we've had a lot of conversations the last couple of months about our budget situation, and I think we need to remember where we are at, and a lot of it is because of a significant budget cut, if you take in inflation, that the state has pushed onto our school districts and public education at a tune of 5 or 6% budget cuts that we've been seeing after inflation. And so we need to make some tough decisions, because how much percentage of our budget is salaries and benefits?
About 90%.
90%. So 90% of our budget is going to salaries and benefits, and we have a 5 or 6% budget cut, millions upon millions of dollars that we're not getting after inflation from the state that's not meeting its needs to fund public education, and we're left where we're at. One of my questions to you is, and I see it in the documents, but can you just review how much are we saving from the hiring freeze, and how much from the permanent position reductions?
So from the hiring freeze, we're saving about $2 million bucks. I believe I may have put that in there.
So from the hiring freeze,
4.9 million.
Yeah, that's a 4.9 after. It's almost $5 million after.
Right. So that's
benefits.
money that will go unspent and will become part of carry forward. Is $5 million.
And I see $3.5 million for the permanent reductions.
Right, and those are dollars that will just disappear off the budget.
Do you have that divided up with M&O, DSEG, indirect? I don't think there's any Title I or other budget sources that are being.
There's one Title I position
Yeah, I
in
see it at the very
in
top.
the
Okay,
reductions.
assessment and reevaluation.
Everything else is, there are labeled, I didn't summarize them, but they all are either M&O or indirect. Some of them are DSEG. Most of them are M&O though.
Most of them are M&O,
Yeah.
so we don't have a ballpark in terms of how much we save in M&O.
I mean, I would say probably about 60% of it is going to be M&O. The remaining balance is going to be DSEG. Indirect is probably going to be the smallest amount. And then we have the one Title I position.
So of about even 30 or 40% is DSEG. We've been talking over the last couple of months about budgets and aligning the budgets that we were spending through DSEG to that $63 million fixed budget that we have. If we approve this, do we need to make any cuts in departments, or is it all included in this?
Those cuts are already going to be incorporated in the budget cuts. So if, for example, I believe there are some MTSS coordinator positions in there that are DSEG funded, those are all going to be incorporated as part of the MTSS budget that they've submitted. They've already said, we're not filling those positions, they're vacant. So those budgets have already accounted for the cuts that you see there in the DSEG budget.
Madam President, thank you. Okay, so just to be clear, the vacant positions under hiring freeze document with several pages, that is to remove that position up until July 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then at which they will be back up for, posted again?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Does that leave those departments enough time to hire?
So we're letting them hire now, right? So if they've identified through the budgeting process that one of those positions on the hiring freeze is not permanently reduced, they can start recruiting today, so that person can start on July 1.
Okay.
And I believe Human Resources is gonna open those up next week. Yeah. So May 5th, they're gonna be able to start.
Dr. Trujillo?
Yeah, I think it's important to clarify. So we've got two goals. Number one, with that hiring freeze until June 30th, goal number one is to identify any available carry forward dollars this fiscal year that can help us burn down this current year deficit. And then with the permanent reductions, those are permanent cuts to permanently reduce our expenditure obligation to further chip into the long-term structural deficit that we have.
Correct.
And to take you a little bit deeper, just for the people watching, Ricky, so when I'm on the freeze list, which is, again, frozen until the end of this fiscal, and then again, July 1, It's because July 1 is the new fiscal year, right? Budgets are refreshed.
Correct.
And if I am in, say, transportation, just because I see a couple of these positions here, and if I've reworked my budget in a way where now I freed up some additional capacity, I can now go hire my 1.0 automotive parts technician, because that wasn't on the permanent cuts list.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Ms. Luna Rose, Ms. Shaw. All right, thank you. At the sake of sounding maybe not that bright on this issue, so, I mean, I understand the term hiring freeze, but can you explain on how does this save money if the positions are open?
So right now, for example, taking the example that Dr. Trujillo used, right? So we've got an automotive parts tech. That position has been vacant since, let's say, March 1st. That position for a full year salary may be $50,000. They only worked all the way to March, so they've left about $15,000 on the table. That 15 is now frozen, will go unspent. We will not allow the transportation department to access those dollars. In fact, we've swept them into a central account so that they can't do that. And then as those positions need to be filled for July 1, they're going to be filled with budget from FY26. So that those dollars, as we start accumulating them because they're savings, we're sweeping them into the budgets where they live, where they were funded from. So that just becomes unspent dollars that become part of our carry forward fund balance. On July 1, it's a whole new ballgame, right? Everybody starts with a new slate. And so as long as you've accommodated those positions within the budget capacity that you were provided, you can continue to hire a lot of those positions that are on that list. Obviously, we've got about 50 FTE. I mean, the vast majority of those on the hiring freeze list, they're going to get hired, and they're going to be open for recruitment as soon as possible.
Okay, thank
Can I
you.
address your question? So like year after year, we had vacancy savings, and that's what led to a lot of our surplus and carry forward. So what we're asking you tonight is to formalize the vacancy savings by just making it that we're not going to approve any more positions of this list for the rest of the year. So if we don't do anything and they don't get hired, there'll be vacancy savings anyway. What we're doing tonight, if we approve this, is to formalize that.
I see, okay. Okay, thank you.
That makes sense. Okay.
Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. And then for the position reductions, those are not permanent or are?
Those are permanent.
Okay,
yes.
because there are some positions, I'm looking at the internal auditor that I want to be posted. And I think there's others that we should explore as well. Some of these positions are at like 0.25 FTE, some from the finance department. Does that mean like a reduction in some staff's like hours, or do we have people who are like less than half-time?
So that budget analyst in the finance department, for example, is funded by multiple line items. That position is a full-time FTE, but they're split 3 different ways. I believe they're DSEG, M&O, and indirect costs.
Okay.
So that is one entire person. And I can tell you that person is retiring, and so we're just not filling that position.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Dr. Trio?
Yeah, I also wanted to say that the major purpose for us bringing this list is for the board to consider what governing board member Shaw has already started, giving us direction, identifying positions that you would like to see pulled off, so we can take that direction accordingly.
Yeah, I will say with the operations, just because I know that that's been kind of vocalized, is that each of the operations directors, facilities, transportation, school safety, they identified all of these positions as part of their operations. In other words, they've evaluated, am I able to continue the level of service, let's say in the school safety department, without these FTEs? And so this is something that they individually have identified and determined this will not affect my ability to serve through that department. So just, I want to make sure I point that out.
And there's also quite a bit from both pots coming out of EDI, and I would like us to kind of review what they've been doing lately, and keeping some staff in that department.
Yeah, the EDI assistant superintendent, that salary was split split up three ways. And Asian American, African American, and Mexican American student services each received $33,000 from the vacancy savings from the EDI assistant superintendent in order to put on their summer programs this year. So that's what happened with the vacancies this year. We won't be realizing any vacancy savings from EDI before FY25. FY26 is a different story, obviously. To Dr. Trujillo's point, if the direction from the board is you want to maintain that assistant superintendent position, we will maintain it and we will pull the budget capacity back from the departments that currently have allocated that money.
Mr. Romero, then Dr. Shaw.
Yeah, so on that short list, one of the biggest ones that sticks out to me was also mentioned at the call to the audience again is our internal auditor, I guess, and they're also built into our org chart also. So for my, I would want to at least pull that off and consider other ones as well.
Dr. Shaw.
This is for the audience, so anybody listening online. I ask and recommend that you contact your state legislature. Like, we're in the position because of severe budget cuts, and I wish we could reverse the budget cuts that the state has pushed onto public education. That said, and I think in light of the budget that we have, I think the public, I think taxpayers, I think our people here in TUSD's area is expecting us to make some tough decisions in light of the budget situation that we have. And, we need to make some cuts. And unfortunately, we can't just cut professional development and travel and other things. We don't have the $30, $40, $50 million to cut in those budgets with 90% of our money going towards salaries and benefits. And so I think we need to make some difficult decisions. And I will make a motion to approve the item tonight to approve the hiring freeze and a permanent closed positions, subtracting out the internal auditor from that permanently closed position.
I will second.
There's a motion by Dr. Shaw, seconded by Ms. Luna Rose. Any other discussion? Ms. Shaw.
Yeah, I just want to get some clarity on the EDI department. Like, will they still have a staff with these permanent reductions?
So the EDI department will not have a staff. The only person who will be left is the program manager, Dr. Hurley, who supports the performance impact analysis process. The services essentially have been distributed out to the 3 DSEG-funded student services departments at this point.
Dr. Shaw.
And I turn it over to Dr. Trujillo to kind of clarify some of that. I think I don't want the public to think that we're cutting EDI, that we're responding to anything federally, that we're doing anything at this point. The EDI work is continuing, but in a different form.
Yes, and that's a very, very important. So you have a situation where you have these vacancies, okay? You have a vacancy at assistant superintendent, you have a vacancy for program coordinator, and then most recently for the senior director. Those duties had to be reassigned because the work had to be moved forward. So there's a split between African American Student Services, Mexican American Student Services, Native American Student Services, and APARS, Asian Pacific and Refugee Student Services, absorbing the work. A lot of that work involves advocacy. A lot of that work also involves programmatic evaluation to make sure that decisions made about resources and allocation of resources are done with an equity focus. And then, of course, representation when there are disciplinary situations with our students. So that work is happening. It's just been assigned to our student service departments.
Yeah. And a point of clarification, the senior director of EDI supervises the magnet department. So that position, obviously, at this point will continue. That is Mr. Taravati's position.
Oh, that is correct. Magnet coordinator does continue.
Yeah.
So that traditionally the senior director for EDI, a major focus of that work was magnet, because we're talking about equity and equitable access to specialized programming. So we do have to have a magnet director. So that is a position that the board can consider, in terms of being the lead administrative point person for these initiatives as well.
So I just want to reiterate our district's commitment to equity work, to diversity work, to inclusivity, access. These are concepts that are very important to success in our district, and we are not shying away or moving away from any of that work as we continue to make sure that we build a school district and opportunities for our students that need it.
Absolutely. We've got very robust student service departments doing some very innovative things in this field, and they'll continue to do so. And of course, we've got our magnet director position, which of course is not on this list. I know
that is not on the list for that very
but it
reason.
is a commitment for the post-unitary
Correct.
status plan, so we had to
Yes.
keep it off of this list for the magnet director.
I will just say, whenever I was contacted by LGBTQIA groups, wanting to make sure that their work was still provided by the district, Mr. Terabati stepped right in and did commit to that work, and it did get done. So I am comfortable with who's ever in that position to continue that work. And I just also want to reiterate, we are not getting rid of EDI. Again, I just want to say, it's been doled out to our student services department, and I think they're doing amazing work. And we're still continuing to provide for our students, but we do need to make some hurtful cuts. So this is where we're at. Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Just last point of clarification. Will the department still exist, or is it just being totally absorbed by the student services departments?
At this point, I mean, it will be absorbed by the three DSEG-funded student services departments. Native American Student Services, as a point of clarification, does not receive DSEG funding. But in order to be equitable to that department, we did provide them also a supplemental funding from Impact Aid, which is the majority of where they are funded. So essentially, the department EDI will not exist in name, but the work will now be done by the EDI student services departments, essentially.
And then will Mr. Taravati's scope of work change, or who's going to handle issues related to the LGBTQ community?
We are going to keep the scope of work exactly the same as the position he is leaving. So that work will be assigned to whoever the newly hired administrator coming in will be.
And for the issues related to the LGBTQ community, will whoever takes that position?
Yes.
Like, how will the community know who to contact?
That's going to be, when we hire that particular position, that is going to be the lead administrative point person for any issues related to inclusiveness in this district, equal access opportunity and inclusiveness. And going forward, we actually see more of that position being a liaison in terms of interfacing with the student services departments to follow up on different cases and different situations, working with counselors in schools. And I think that we have an opportunity here to really enhance that position as well as its service to magnet schools.
Dr. Shaw?
Dr. Trujillo, can you just make sure someone from the queer community is on the selection committee for the new position when it's hired?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Governing board members, any other questions? Comments? Concerns? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is 9.1, desegregation budget study session number 5, technology services, fine arts, and human resources. Dr. Tria?
Yes, President Ekstrom, board members. This is one of our final desegregation study sessions of the season before we start getting into the work of preparing drafted reductions. Up first, in what will be a series of brief presentations, okay, is our Technology Services Department and our Executive Director for ITS, Mr. Rabi Hamadai.
Thank you, Dr. Trujillo, President Ekstrom, board members, Council Ross. I'll give you a very brief introduction of our team, which you know already, and give you a summary of the 10% cuts in our DSEC budget. I'll play you a small video that if I don't play the video, the team behind me will get mad at me, so I better do it. And then we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. By the way, the team is standing behind me, here, sitting behind me, so if you can raise your hand. And also, we have two people in front of you here that you may not know they're part of Technology Services, Maria and Jean, but they are, and we're very happy to have them. But anyway, let me give you a very
Can you introduce
brief,
your team?
I'm sorry.
Can you introduce your team by name?
Sure. Jean and Maria.
We know Jean and Maria.
Tracy, Linda, and Chris, and Trent. And those folks are the leaders of about 12 to 25 to 50 people each, and they support and lead our 110 FTEs for technology services who support the district. But anyway, we're happy to have them, and hopefully we'll have the team for a very long time, because as you see on the screen, there's a lot of things that we do behind the scenes, or sometimes not behind the scenes in the schools. I'll very briefly go over those topics. I will not take any time, but if you have any questions, by all means. Cybersecurity, disaster recovery, data backup and access control, things like network infrastructure. In the middle there, you see that we have 80,000 plus technology devices. Those are laptops, tablets, phones, printers, active boards, you name it, 80,000. That's a pretty large for any organization to support. Fiber optic wide area network and local area network, wired and wireless communication, cloud architecture, et cetera, et cetera. Again, that's the whole network that support all our students and teachers and staff and keep us going day after day, 24/7. Some of the items as well, we do have a customer service center. As you know, Technology Services now houses these service centers where folks can call work orders for transportation or facilities or technology, and we can fix or escalate. We have things like strategic planning and project management, where we coordinate with with other operation departments or schools. We have life cycle for our one-to-one device initiative. As you know, a laptop can survive 3 to 5 years, an active board 5 to 10 years, etc. We have our research and development team. We have our policies and processes that need to be updated on a regular basis. We have our artificial intelligence that the team behind me presented to you a couple of times, and hopefully next time that policy will be approved by you. That'll be great. We have things like robotics and drones, you name it. So all the technology, that we have to keep for all the schools, but also that we have to look for the future as well, because if we don't, then we'll have outdated technology that will not serve our district or our students or our community. Our team pretty much is made up of about 5 distinct groups. You see on top the instructional technology and online education. Those are the folks who are 50% teachers, 50% trainers. They train the teachers and staff on anything technology. Tracy behind me, you met her several times. She's their senior director. We have our field support team also that Tracy manages. Those are the folks who are in the field, about 40 of them. They reside at the school, and they're our first line of defense. So the first time an email doesn't work, or a printer doesn't work, or an active board, or a teacher cannot take attendance, or the payroll, somebody did not get their paycheck, or stuff like that, our technology system can attend and then escalate. Then you have the information technology infrastructure at the bottom there. Those are the folks that you don't see. They are the ones who fix your wireless systems, your cloud computing, your data centers. If you escalate to one of those folks, that means there's a main problem that you have to fix, and that's why those people operate behind the scenes. As I said, you have your customer service center. We take calls for transportation facilities and technology, and we try to resolve them online or the phone, or we escalate. And of course, and we have our application and data services. Chris behind me is the leader of that team. They're the folks who do the student information system, the finance system, enrollment, programming, inventory, you name it. So, and under there's a small link about the video, but let me go to the budget first, and then we'll end with the video, and then if you have any questions. And as promised, I would like to be as brief as I can. As you see on the bottom there, our DSEC budget for this year was 1.4 million, a little bit that more than 1.475, and with a reduction, 10% reduction of about 147,000, will be at 1.3 million about. You see on top, the items in red is what we cut, and you see that there were some cuts for a classified salary that I'll tell you about in detail, some cuts to the benefits of the salary, and then some cuts for programs such as mainly professional development that happened in the summer, where they're funded by DSEG, and those are some of the programs that are going away, at least for the time being. And also, you see on top, maybe at the very bottom under where it says non-payroll, that large number, 395,000, that pays for School City. That's the online testing that all the schools do. So obviously, we're not doing any cuts there. But for the items in red that you see in parentheses, those are where the cuts are happening. And that makes, again, 1.4 million, 10% of that is about 140,000, a little bit more, and that's where our cuts are. The FTE that we had to cut was a vacant programming position, a very important position, but it was vacant. It was not filled for about 6 months or more. So that's the one where we had to make the difficult cut and go from 11.10 FTE that are paid by DSEG to 10.10. And the words you see on top there, EBAS is Evidence-Based Accountability System, that came with the DSEG case, of course. Where you see the word CSC at the in the middle, that means Customer Service Center. So if you have any questions on acronyms, please let me know. But mainly that was the cut. Those are the folks, again, and their leaders are sitting behind me, that are being paid by DSEG. They're either paid by full DSEG or 50% or 40% when those teams were created. And we had to let go of one programmer position of that. But if you have any questions, you may ask me, or again, just so that I don't get in trouble, let me play that video if we can, Gene, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me or ask us.
The Tucson Unified School District has been experiencing a ransomware attack since Monday.
What happened in 2023 can't happen again. That's exactly why I'm here. Technology Services has worked hard to implement robust security systems. But the truth is, most critical factor in preventing cyber threats is the user. It's not just about training, it's about embedding cybersecurity into every aspect of educational technology. Since 2023, I've been building cybersecurity-focused asynchronous courses from the ground up, tailored specifically to our district's needs. But these aren't ordinary courses. They're interactive, engaging, and powered by industry-leading software to provide teachers and staff with hands-on practical learning. One of our district's biggest ed tech investments is interactive panels. But I don't just train teachers on how to use them. I ensure they're properly managed and secured. I ensure that access to student information and assessment data is protected, helping educators utilize secure online assessment tools that prevent unauthorized access and data breaches. I also work to strengthen secure communication through Zoom, ensuring virtual meetings remain protected from external threats, while maintaining compliance with student privacy regulations. Beyond training, I provide direct support through our customer service center, ensuring staff have the resources they need. I'm also developing in-house gamified and interactive applications, creating safer digital learning environments. These apps are not only secure, but are being used by teachers in record numbers. Looking ahead, artificial intelligence is becoming a major player in education. I'm not just teaching teachers how to use AI, I'm ensuring we implement it responsibly, keeping students' data safe and secure. When I'm here, teachers are empowered, schools are protected, and students can learn without fear or digital threats. I'm safeguarding the investments made in our district's future. I am Desegregation Funding and Technology Services. I'm not just a line on a budget sheet. I'm the one training, supporting, and protecting our schools, students, and staff every single day.
All right, and with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Governing board members, any questions? Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and the video.
Thank you.
Next is fine arts desegregation presentation. Dr. Ashcroft?
Good evening, President Ekstrom, governing board members, Dr. Trujillo, and legal counsel Ross. Thank you for your time this evening. I will be brief and let our actions, much of which you've already seen, even some of the board members tonight, going to a presentation of OMA at Lineweaver. So on the first slide, oh, I guess I have to do this, don't I? There we go. Our mission statement simply is to be committed to providing educational experiences which foster creative exploration, build community relationships, and honor the universal thread of humanity. I'm not going to go through the details of all the different things that we do in our position, but rather point out to you that this weekend is the OMA Showcase. We have over 300 students who will be performing on Saturday. In the choir alone are 210 students. We have several different groups that will be performing on that event, and we do invite you to that. I've left with the board administrative assistants the actual program, which I think we also mailed to you, and also tickets as well. That event is called the OMA Showcase, What's Your Superpower? And in that, we're going to talk and perform music that demonstrates the many powers of the arts for students. In looking at what we're going to do in terms of cutbacks, we obviously use district leadership, and I must say that finance was very helpful to us in that, site administrators and our program specialists, meaning our discipline-based fine arts teachers and our arts integration specialists and teaching artists. So here's the budget. This particular year, our allocation you see there at the top, $1,247,888. Our required reduction was $125,000. We accomplished this reduction actually more than we needed to. We reduced $134,608, was a $9,600 reduction beyond the target. And then our reduction target, the number for next year, you see there at about $1,113,000. This reduction in service was a result of us cutting maintenance and repair of musical instruments, because we do have some money for that, but we also have some very incredibly generous donors who are funding us with additional monies for reeds, strings, some of the instruments, of course, even lots of we have a lot of people that have actually donated instruments, but also we've had to cut supplies, clay, paint, etc. We had a donor this year who's actually helped us restore that budget cut. That's going to help us somewhat. And then finance helped us move 2.5 of our OMA FTE to the classroom site funding allocation, based on the fact that that's what our teachers do. All of our staff are in the schools 100% of the time. And then we had a 0.6 EMC cataloger that we chose not to fill. By the way, we've been changing these exhibits up here. This exhibit is about our Educational Materials Center and the multicultural artifacts, now numbering over 10,000 that go out to the schools on a regular basis to be used in the classrooms, core curriculum classes as well as the arts classes. So we wanted you to see some of those. And the other thing I'm very proud about is the middle school band festival that you see in black and white photos over there taken by Jess that demonstrates the students' abilities to be creative. So, of course, we followed certain restrictions, what the consensus agreement said, the leadership mandates, student enrollment for the schools, and the scheduling for the K-8s and the new K-6 schools. And we've talked before about the OMA and instrumental instruction for kindergarten through 8th grade that goes on. I talked about that, I think, the last time I was here, so I've just listed it for you again. Now, in my last few minutes, I thought it would be very interesting for you to see a 2-minute video that Mary Canty and her staff created. This is on a wonderful collaborative project that we've been able to fund through the University of Arizona School of Music, through the TUSD educational Exceptional Education Department and the Fine Arts Department, in which we have been researching the impact and the power of the arts, music specifically, and movement, the performing arts, to really impact learning for special ed children. This was done under Principal Ronsman's approval at Warren Elementary and with Joshua Floyd. The other handout I have for you tonight that the assistants will give to you later, we completed this little, one of our publications here. It's about the 2-year research study that we did on exceptional music experiences. And in it, we've included some lesson plans for teachers to use. All of our teachers will receive this training during the summer. Our goal is to continue this study for an additional 2 years and to expand it to more than just Warren School. So, Jean, could you please play this 2-minute video?
Hello, hello. All exceptional ed, all kids with varying degrees of intellectual disabilities and emotional disabilities. Can you say hello? I'm working on hand-eye coordination, I'm working on fine and gross locomotor skills, I'm working on verbalizations. Already set, throw, blowing in the wind. Can you put one paint stick in each hand and see if you can make circles with both hands? In art, we're working on line and content. In music, we're working on steady beat and rhythmic competency. Some of the activities are more for an outlet for kids to explore, to experience something, to create something.
Good job, guys. Good job, Jim. Whoa!
One foot up in the air. Can you put one foot up? For the older group, we're gonna see something that's been a little bit more scaffolded. We went through the exploration phase already, and we've been preparing to give the students a chance to perform something. I found that laughter is contagious. I found that when kids are allowed freedom to play a little bit, that they will surprise me and give me a lot of joy. Being able to work with these kids in a way that scaffolds their learning, in a way that gets them building on skills that are not only necessary for their success in music, but also for their success in other life domains. I think it's really special being able to present them with something that might look like a music activity on its face, but really touches on so many other areas of their development.
Thank you, Jean, and thank you, Mary, for that wonderful video. So that's all I've got to say, except for planning into the future, which I was asked to address. We are so committed to the arts for kids. It doesn't matter what art form, but we are committed to it. And we intend, no matter what the budget is, to continue these life-changing, empowering experiences for our children. And thank you for your incredible support over the years, and to Dr. Trujillo as well. Any questions?
No, Dr. Ashcraft, thank you so much for that video. I've been to Warren a couple of times, and they were just implementing this, so it's really amazing to see that they've done the work. And I know that they've also tried to get the preschoolers into doing some OMA, so that was really amazing to hear and to see. And just like on a personal level, my daughter being able to read music, she can play her recorder, but now she can play the piano and of course the violin. That's something that I never had access to, and so it's just really amazing that Tucson Unified is able to provide this to our students. So thank you so much for your advocacy, and really to the board for making this a priority for our students. Ms. Luna Rose.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ashcraft. comment and then a question. So, well, actually, I'll reverse it. Let's do a question first. So I'm looking here at the reduction in service, and I know you said, like with Clay, somebody has donated, so some of that has come back. Are you looking in, I'm assuming, you've been looking into maybe perhaps some grants or any of those sort of avenues to curtail or to supplement?
Yes, absolutely we are. But the thing that's amazing to me is the support of the community. It blows my mind, really, particularly in the last few years with the donation of instruments and the funding that we have gotten for things we couldn't do. And I mean, we have a lot of schools that say, well, we need supplies for, mainly for visual arts is the shortcoming there. And we have found people to step up. And we're hoping that it's not going to be forever. But we also know that there is this $10 fee that middle school kids can pay for some of their materials. I've noticed some of the schools like McGee is doing that. We hope we don't have to implement that, but we will use all other resources first.
Okay, that's good to hear. And just, I want to bounce off Ms. Ekstrom's comment. You know, my daughter started at Sewell, which is, you know, a normal gold, and is now part of the marching band at Rincon. So I know that the arts have been, and she's also in drama at Rincon. So I know that's, oh, I know, believe me, my schedule is busy. But my point being is that the arts has really enhanced her time here in the district. So I'm hoping that that's also reflective among her peers.
Thank you. Dr. Shaw and then Ms. Shaw.
Thank you, President Extra, and thank you for the presentation, Dr. Ashcroft. I'll do the same thing, a question first and then a comment. On the 135,000 reduction, how much is actually a reduction and how much is moving to another fund? I was a little confused on what the reduction service is. Not really a reduction if we're just moving it to another fund.
Well, of that, the 2.6 FTE, 2.5 FTE is moved to the classroom piece, but everything else is a reduction. So for instance, the maintenance repair, it's reduced by 12,000 and supplies 7,000. And the cataloger, we don't need that 0.6 position.
So how much is an actual reduction then from the budget?
It's 134,608. Some of that being moved, the 2.5 FTE being moved to the M&O budget.
Okay, so I'm not including that because that's not a reduction. That's just a moving to another budget source.
Okay.
So that's, well, how much is an actual reduction?
Well, the 12,000 plus the 7,000 in the cataloger position, which is less than 15.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't include like when we're moving to other funds as sources of actual reduction. We're just now using other sources of funding for that, and we don't now have any extra sources of funding. But I just wanted to clarify that to make sure I understood that. And I guess my comment again, just echoing a lot, you know, I got to go see an opera about space tonight, and my kids had a great time performing, and so it was great to see that. So thank you to you and your team, and to Mrs. Fields and everyone who has been so engaged and involved on arts and music education, especially for elementary school students. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw.
Thank you for your presentation and for all of your work. I mean, to me, Dr. Shaw, it is a reduction because we're talking about DSEG, and so if it's moved out of DSEG, technically it's a reduction in the DSEG budget. I don't know. But my question is, you mentioned that like you have received some donations that help you like, you know, keep some of these programs going. Are those donations from individuals mainly, or are we seeing businesses, like local businesses, like Michael's or Sarnoff's or other places like support TUSD's fine arts?
They are from individuals.
Okay, interesting. Well, I always see like free art supplies on Craigslist, just saying, I don't know if our teachers utilize that, but it's like a constant. What else was I going to say?
Well, we do have large donations that come in, you know, in terms of instruments that have been in the family for a number of years that are no longer being used. But we have had visual arts donations like easels and things like that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so we have and also, you know, the multicultural artifacts. We get beautiful things from the community.
Yeah.
That gives those to
those
us.
are so great. Let's see. And surprised to hear that like McGee is I don't know if it's $10 that's optional to participate in fine arts. Is that like typical for?
Well, I just discovered that the other
Yeah.
day, and I am going to be looking into that to see how many middle schools are actually implementing that
Right.
for their art department.
Yeah, because I had not heard of it. Like, I know when you go to art school and at the college level, there are significant costs for that. And so I don't really know, since my daughter's in middle school and she's not in art right now, if that's a thing, and especially at the high school level, if that's something like, I know maybe for photo, but can you speak to that for like high school level?
The high school budgets are not in the fine arts department. We certainly support them in other ways, but we are not responsible for supplies for them or for their FTE.
I see. Okay. Good to know. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Romero.
So just a quick question, you mentioned the donations. I know a lot of these school sites have their tax credits where people can go send money to them for their, do you have that in your department?
Very interesting history. When we started OMA, we were able to gather thousands of dollars of tax credit universally to use for our programs. And then, of course, the program got more defined by the state, and now each school, of course, has their tax credits that they raise. So there is a fund for fine arts. There's kind of a universal fund that has to be voted upon, and there's also an OMA fund. Additionally, a lot of the schools put out OMA, the elementary schools, on their websites for additional donations. So we have a lot of resources, I'm happy to say. I'm not sure all districts do. We're very fortunate.
Thank you.
And I will just add, Lineweaver PTO does give money to Mrs. Fields and helps her with whatever supplies she may need, like paints, and I think she's updating some of the instruments that need repair. So PTO does a lot of that too at different schools.
I hadn't mentioned that. That's very true.
Yeah.
They do.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is the Human Resources Desegregation Budget Presentation.
All right, I want to introduce our Chief Human Capital Officer, Mr. John Fernandez, and take us through the recommendations.
Okay. Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to review our desegregation budget request for FY 2026 as it applies to our Human Resources Department. I'm joined tonight by Monica Sanchez, our Director of Recruitment and Talent Acquisition, who oversees much of the activities that we'll be discussing tonight. Before you is our mission. This is our mission statement, actually put together collectively by our team in human resources. And as you can see, embedded in our mission is this commitment to developing recruiting and retaining a pipeline of talent that reflects a safe, diverse, equitable workplace, reflects our inclusive community, because we believe that this contributes ultimately to student success and continuous improvement. So this is already embedded into everything that we do, whatever source of funding it comes from. That's our day-to-day work. With regard to our role and responsibility in this context, our role and responsibility really is to ensure that we are enhancing the racial, ethnic diversity of our administrators and certified staff throughout the district. And we do this through all of our activities, from recruitment to hiring to looking at compensation to looking at employee discipline. We do this through the establishment of standard operating procedures that are really aimed at creating a systemic approach to equity and inclusiveness. The 5 areas that we talk about is strengthening recruitment of a diverse applicant pool, making sure that our hiring practices are fair and equitable. We are active and aggressive in going to recruiting events to make sure that we are reaching wide to try to, especially in this time of teacher shortage and educator shortage, to make sure we are at local and regional events or even across the country to try to make sure that we are recruiting for our district, and also to host the job fairs that TUSD hosts to support our schools within the Tucson area. We do have responsibility for administering recruitment and retention incentives. And I will get into more detail as to what those activities are. And then part of that is also really focusing on how we can grow our own teachers and leaders from within our current labor pool, within our community, within our current workforce. Just a brief overview of the org chart. The desegregation budget funds 5.6 FTEs within our organizational chart. We have about a 40-person team in the office, again, funded by M&O and indirect costs mostly, but where the desegregation budget comes into play is they supports the director, the recruitment manager, and then a portion of other positions in this department that assists with supporting the recruitment of applicants, ensuring that they are hired and onboarded, and also meeting the monitoring, compliance, and reporting requirements that we have been responsible for over the years. So that's really where the personnel support comes in from the budget that we get. This is an outline of the programs and stipends that we support in HR. So we can just briefly, I mean, we have the Aspiring Leaders program, which was really geared at helping employees who want to obtain their master's or principal cert to be able to receive an incentive to pursue that opportunity. We have our Grow Your Own programs, which include our Arizona Teaching Fellows through the University of Arizona to really support student teachers and then helping them become teachers of record. So so those are both recruitment and retention stipends. Pathways to Teaching is also a similar program helping to support TUSD staff to obtain their bachelor's and then move on, or with the bachelor's, move on to their teacher's cert by, again, providing some support to them as they move on the path towards becoming teacher of record. Make the Move is what we offer to our TUSD staff who have their bachelor's, and again, you'll see it's basically recruitment and retention. We don't just give it once; we kind of do it over multiple years to allow them to receive an incentive to move from perhaps being a parapro into a teaching position. Hard to Fill used to be really math, science, and exceptional education. A lot of our focus recently has been on XEd, and we fund this through this $5,000 one-time stipend that you see on our list. The two-way dual language program, dual language teachers receive an ongoing $5,000 per year stipend, which has really helped with regard to filling positions and maintaining a very low turnover rate in our dual language programs. And then our teacher diversity plan, that's under the USP was really a focus on targeted schools, requiring HR to support incentives to help teachers move to and work in these targeted schools in order to increase the diversity at those particular communities. And again, this is all in the USP plans and the reports that we've been documenting over the years. And again, it resides in HR as our chief responsibility. This is what our adopted FY 2025 HR budget looks like. It's basically a $1.7 million allocation, and this is the breakdown in terms of the budget allocated to each of the programs and activities that we just talked about, from Aspiring Leaders down to the Teacher Diversity Program. Recruitment support really it reflects the 5.6 FTEs and recruitment activities that are supported as part of our recruitment team and their efforts, and then a small amount related to some of the support services relative to recruitment and hiring. So that comes to a total of 1.7 million, a little bit over. As we were tasked with kind of reviewing the budget for FY 2026, we tried to use these principles to guide us in that decision making. Number one was understanding the need to align our budget with regard to fiscal realities. And so our target was, let's see what we can do to hit that 10% reduction while maintaining our mission. Number two is that we really have been able to build out a strong recruitment team that is very active and able to be present, in hiring events throughout the region, and also supporting are hard to fill areas like ExEd, transportation, food services. So they do a lot of work inside and outside of the district to try to address our recruitment challenges. And then number three, what will look like reductions in part is really going to be a realignment of the recruitment and retention stipends based on utilization data and projected needs. So these are stipends that have existed over the past several years. In reviewing how many people are, how many candidates are coming through the pipeline, what the needs are for next year, we made some adjustments to the 26 budget to reflect, those projections. So this is how we came to our 10% reduction. So you'll see that the Aspiring Leaders program, we actually proposed reducing it in total. It's about a $50,000 program. That activity supports 5 candidates per year to obtain, their master's or their principal's cert. I think we are finding that, based on the other activities and based on the fact that we work very closely with other leadership development activities such as Leadership Prep Academy and our Principal Boost program, that we actually, have seen more success kind of working with Leadership Prep and Boost Academy, and we want to be able to continue to focus our efforts there while also being, conservative with our resources. So we propose a reduction in that line. Our Grow Your Own programs, looks like it's a reduction of $30,000. That really is just based on actually the pipeline of participants that are coming through each year and that we project for next year. So it is a continuous support for the program, but really based on who we know will be coming through in the coming year. Same thing with Make the Move. The number went up because of the number of employees that are utilizing the alternative teacher pathways. So while we reduce on one line, you'll see Make the Move increase. And the hard to fill, based on, again, our projections, we increase those lines as well. The teacher diversity plan is where you'll see the biggest reduction of $180,000. And that's basically reflective of the progress that has been made in order to incentivize teachers to teach in these targeted schools. And at this point, there aren't as many openings at these schools to fill. So you'll see that we continue to support the program and pay out what are essentially 3-year stipends, but looking ahead, we don't believe that there's that same level of need at this point. So with $73,000, we'll still have those incentives available, but there aren't as many available positions at that point to justify a higher amount. Dual language, this is a $5,000 stipend throughout the duration of a dual language teacher's employment. So it is, and just due to the budgetary situation, we're recommending a reduction from $5,000 to $3,000, continuing to be on an ongoing basis. We do know that it is helpful to recruit and to retain. I think we're in the 90 to 100% retention rate for dual language teachers, and we're going to want to monitor, if this goes through, we're still going to want to monitor the turnover to make sure that we're not negatively impacting it. But in light of our fiscal realities, we just propose keeping it, but at a lower level. And it is, again, an ongoing stipend throughout their employment in that position. So in total, that's a $175,000 reduction that meets the 10% goal and allows us to continue our mission based on our projected needs and our real aggressive recruitment infrastructure that we've built. In the event that are funds available, we said, no, this is what it would take to restore those activities that were reduced. But again, subject to additional revenues that are available. Otherwise, we would operate under that proposed 2026 budget as presented. So with that, I don't have a video, but it's a long night, so happy to take any questions at this time. I didn't think of a video, so we would have done that.
Any questions for Mr. Fernandez? Yes, Mr. Romero.
So thank you very much. And one of the things that you kind of did mention, and again, this is all discussion, the dual language, with that stipend, and I know the proposal to drop it on down to that. by being in a lot of these schools, again, this is this is at the site level that we're seeing that affected. My concern, again, just would be lowering it for those people that are there. Are they going to feel like they're not deserving of that amount? That's just, again, retention of these teachers. I see how important this is at these schools. I didn't know that's something, again, with Ricky, maybe moving forward, anybody new gets a 3,000, but everyone that continues out, for that to maintain that amount, because I'm sure they've planned their world around that stipend.
Yeah, so the overall amount that's dedicated, we've kind of budgeted that out. We have talked about different ways to administer the stipend. We didn't want, I think at this point we were concerned about discontinuing it or restructuring it when there was an expectation of continuous stipends, throughout the duration of their employment in that position. But it is something that we talked about and we can continue to explore within our budget allocation. I do think that the interesting thing about this stipend is almost serves as a compensation adjustment because it's not a one-time or a short-term stipend, it's a permanent stipend. So we essentially, in addition to whatever compensation has been approved over the years, has become an additional kind of bonus payment built into their pay for for those years. So we can evaluate different structures. But at this point, we were kind of, that would take some time to phase in so that we could, clarify the expectations for those who are currently employed and make sure that we don't move too dramatically to affect the retention of these. Because again, we're at 90 to 100%, which is really amazing. So we do want to keep it at a high level. But we can definitely talk to Ricky and look at different options so we can bring that back to the board about, going forward.
Thank you.
Dr. Shaw?
Yeah, I was looking at that line item. I'm a little worried about that too, because I know in the past year, I think right now we're doing good in terms of open positions, dual language. I know in the past we've had some issues trying to recruit and retain folks in dual language. And so I don't want to go back to that, because I think this is a really important program that both is great educational benefit for the students as well as draws a lot of parents and families into the district. So I want to be careful that we don't mess up that program and hurt us in the end. Because we lose 4 families, that's going to equal that amount if we lose 4 students. And so we don't want to spite our nose to.
Okay, we appreciate
that.
Not
our nose to spite our face, that's the term. So yeah, I would be careful with that one. I know because there's a special certification for dual language, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so these teachers have gone above and beyond on that front a lot. So just be careful on that one.
Okay, so noted. Thank you.
Ms. Shaw?
Thank you for mentioning that, Mr. Romero. I would also agree with you and Dr. Shaw that we should maybe not, remove the stipend since it is permanent and people have factored that into like their yearly finances.
Okay, we'll review that. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Fernandez.
All right, thank you.
Item number 10.1, future meeting dates and agenda items. Dr. Trujillo.
Yeah, board members, it's just going to continue to be a busy spring. Coming up, first board meeting in May, Javelina Consulting will be here to present its overview of polling trends with regard to a potential override. We'll have a study session on absenteeism in TUSD as requested by a couple of our board members. We'll also have a general overview of the board's policy for the naming of facilities and schools. That also was a request from one of our board members. And then we will have our update on the Community Health Care Worker and Substance Misuse Reduction Initiative funded by the proceeds from the Jewel litigation. That will also be on tap for next week, for our first meeting in May, so we'll be busy.
Yes, Ms. Shaw.
Dr. Trujillo, will there be a study item on the May 13th agenda in regards to a caseload cap for some of our related service providers?
That one is coming up for a little bit later on in May, our second meeting in May. We are pretty booked on May 13th already. We also have another desegregation study session on MTSS. We have a public hearing set for budget revision number 3. And then we've got some more appointments to consider. And you have your second read for AI usage in the classroom which I think is going to be a substantive discussion.
Golly. Okay. May 13th. Do we have time to put like the graduation stuff, or can we handle that outside of the meeting?
I can do that. That's a quick policy, just review. We can add that.
Okay. And I think maybe just outside of the meeting, we could provide direction on regards to some of those school sites that
Okay.
have reached out to us. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? If not, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.